Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Shooting the Shelf here on the Just Shelve It channel. I am Jesse Arnold, and with me is my co-host Curtis Ackerman. How are you doing tonight, Curtis?
I'm doing well. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon,
Sure.
all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like saying good morning because then if it catches you not in the morning, it resets your day, and you can have the rest of your evening can be a nice morning.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think we got a fun one tonight.
Absolutely. Um, Hello to everyone in the chat. There's a lot of you out here already. Mike Casper, Masterversal Toy Hunter, Dave Orkin, Jacob Forna, Danny Caudle, David Williams, Vonnie Rotten, J Mac, figuratively speaking, and Joe Gonzalez and Jose. What's up? Morning. Yes. Well, I mean, if you watch this later on replay,
Yeah.
good morning. And somewhere in the world this morning.
We saw a few of these folks today in the studio.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
It's nice to see everyone out there. Let's give a warm digital round of applause to our special guest this week, the one and only Nate Strong, aka Corona 4.
What is up? You nailed that, Jesse.
It was beautiful.
It paused. My head paused before I got it out.
Man, perfect perfection.
Internet clap for this guy.
What is going on, fellas?
What's up, man?
Not much. Been looking forward to this all week.
Oh, same.
Yeah, we're gonna start off with our shelf selections, which actually we don't always have our guest participate in, but you had sent us some selections for this week, so you're gonna be part of this with us. So it should be fun.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Who we got leading off, Jesse?
So I think we start off with your pick, Curtis.
Okay. This one was from Stephen Bisciotti, and I really liked this one. It's a Triorch head. I've seen it painted a few times. It's usually painted to match like the deluxe half giant, or both are the tower. But this one he did to match an Archimedes, and I like the skin tone. Obviously, is a perfect match. But then the beard and the eyes really is what set this one apart for me. Like, I just thought it was really cool the way that he did that.
Yeah.
So I know that he's kind of ramping up some painted parts to have at MesquiCon in a few weeks. And yeah, this is going to be one of those that's available. And I thought this one was really cool.
Yeah, I this would have been one I would have chosen myself if you hadn't beat me to the punch. And I actually picked up that the one when we were in Legion's Con, the same sculpt, but the flesh tone. So he just perfectly matched that. But yeah, as soon as I saw this, it totally jumped out at me. I do love the colors, love the eyes, love the beard, just like you said. It's excellent.
Yeah. I like seeing it in the different color than the regular like Caucasian skin tone we've been seeing it. So
yeah, it's
not that those are bad. It's just it's a fun different take on it.
Yeah, super unique.
Absolutely. All right. Up next, I think is my first choice from you can't even see his name, Chris Ferrone. I just really love this green and orange combo and like the bronzy rust color on the armor and everything. The colors just really popped out at me. So
yeah, and I think the lines on there are real crisp on the gauntlets, and the colors all work together. Yeah, I mean, this is, to me, I mean, I don't know what his intentions were on this one, but it looks very much like it would fit right in with Xylonis Flock. Like, this guy could just be right in with that group.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
100%.
It's a great color scheme.
And I don't know if that's one of his new beards to fit that helmet, or if that's one of the old beards.
I think it is, because that's the new ones that I think go underneath that helmet part. And yeah, it's just overall great look there. And I thought that he did a real good job on that as well.
Cool columns in the back too.
Yeah, I think it's saying some of that stuff's from was it Lone Wolf Labs, the backdrop, and the axe. It says axe head from Anthony House. Oh yeah, okay. I thought that was the regular Legions one there, but I see.
Oh yeah, because Anthony's been doing some like, I think that's a mythic handle, like for the mace.
Yeah.
But then Anthony's been doing some like weapon toppers that you would exchange out on that handle. So
yeah.
So that's
awesome.
Cool stuff. And we got one of Nate's picks.
Yeah, these have been out, I know, for, I don't know, maybe a couple, 2-3 weeks, but just seeing these two right next to each other, I think these are from the Jumanji movie, the toy sets, but he's repainted them, and I think they're great. I'm pretty sure that Trevor picked one up too. He's going to repaint, but we've all been wanting bears for our Noble Bear Clan, and these look awesome. Until Four Horsemen bring one to us, these are perfect stand-ins.
Yeah,
That's cool. Yeah, I know. Go ahead.
The line, these Jumanji figures, they look like style wise they're pretty nice, and but they definitely need a repaint to look good in with the legions, and they did a great job with these
for sure.
Yeah, I know Jeremy Gerard had one that was like a polar bear like statue that he picked up from Michael's or something that I'd seen him use with a couple figures. And yeah, anytime that you can add some extra wildlife, I think that'll fit scale wise is good.
Absolutely. Let's see. Up next is Curtis's next pick.
Wow. Yeah, this one, it's a collector note, and I'm not sure who this actually is. I don't know their actual name, but I really loved this. Obviously, that's a repaint of that Bardrick head. And then, but the thing that really caught me was the armor, like just how nice that gold looks. And then the pauldrons, he actually looks like he cut part of a waist piece and then added it onto the side of that pauldron to make it a little bit longer. And then it's got the black bear arms underneath of it. And then you got that flowing wired cape. I'm not sure who made that cape, but it's fabulous. So I just thought that this created a great overall look. Like you just look at this character and it just looks so good. It photographs well. And yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah, it's stunning. And good catch on the pauldrons there. That looks exactly like what he did.
Yep. Yeah. Really nice. Oh, Anthony's joined us in the chat now. This was my next pick from Tatted Toy Dude, aka Van Johnson. I just, as I was scrolling through this picture, just jumped at me. I love that brazier there with it. I just really love that kind of haunting, kind of pale look. I keep doing it every week. I mouse over the stuff with my mouse, and no one is seeing that.
No, just look where the pointer is.
Yeah. And just like all the soft goods, like the real leather belt he's got going on there and everything. There's just a lot of cool stuff going on this figure, and it just feels like so many legions do. Like it could be right, like a set production from a movie set or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I really go ahead, Nate.
I was just gonna say, yeah, he did an awesome job on this too. I totally with you.
Yeah, I like the tattered cloth pieces, like kind of under the armor. That really brings it all together for me.
Vonnie Rotten saying these are Kylab accessories.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Yeah, Kai's my dude. Love that man.
Oh, I don't know what happened with the pictures here. Whoops.
Whose is that?
This is one of Nate's picks.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought this was a cool repaint. Just simple black and gold combo, but really did a great job picking up the details with the gold. And I just like the different head swaps that Way put on here. I thought it was a pretty striking looking figure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool. I like all the different looks with the weapons and accessories. That's cool.
Yeah. Like a deadly assassin kind of.
I like the plane. Is that a 1.0 head?
It looks like it. Yeah.
Looks like it. Yeah.
I like that look. It just looks, because I'm used to seeing the female skeletons with either that ponytail helmet or like Morgulus. So seeing one that's a little more got a little more heft to the size of the skull just feels a little more ominous.
Yeah. This one's one of mine, and I just loved this shot. This is Beerman photography, and you got the little wolves in there along with that Nate Barch kit ogre. Just with you can see like there's a little bit of snow up on his boot. as he's walking through there, and just the, everything in the background. I always love nature shots, but this one really got me. It looks like everything's in scale, just the way that the photo is taken. And I'm definitely no photography major or anything like that, but it just looks really cool to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a great setting, and it's Jared Bierman. He's a super great dude, and yeah, I mean, he did a good job getting pretty low on this, so you get a good perspective on it. So yeah, real great setting. Love the snow, love the background, super neat.
And he does 3D parts too, doesn't he? Like setting pieces, or am I getting him confused with someone?
That's a different Jared.
Okay.
Yeah, forget his handle, but yeah.
This one, I just saw this and loved this. I know it's not a fully mythically. I just had to see this
Jordan
on here though. Yeah, this this pug head with some mythic armor and stuff on it. I just absolutely. It makes me think of the comic. I've never read it, but I've seen it. Was it Battle Pug?
Mm-hmm.
And I just absolutely love the look of this.
Yeah, it's really cool. I don't know what that's from. Is that a figure that normally comes like that? I don't know how much customizing was involved in this, but the overall look is something that's really cool for sure.
The statue, the body looks like it looks like it's flocked
Mm-hmm.
to
I
an
noticed
extent. And it looks like the body is a rigid, like it doesn't have any joints. And I think the head is on there. At first I thought it was the goblin, the Mythic Legion's goblin. Someone's saying, Dana's saying it's a 3D statue.
3D. Yeah.
So,
Gotcha.
but either way, I just saw that and I had to share that. I just love, and I love his like.
It. Yeah, it looks like they used the belt from the Noble Barge kit, that thicker belt, and then they put a Mythic Legion pauldron on it. So there's some of your Mythic tie-in on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does create a really cool look.
And there's some pictures. If you look at Sean March in the Cabal, like he's got him next to some of the other figures on the side here. I should have grabbed some of those pictures, but yeah, just absolutely love that.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's fun. We got a ton of felines, obviously, in Mythos, but it'd be cool to have a canine race.
Yeah. And another one of Nate's picks.
Yeah, this was just a repaint of Delphina with custom hair put on there, and I just thought it was unbelievable job. I mean, it's a gorgeous figure to begin with.
Yeah.
And I don't have the name of whoever did the paint on there. I think it was buried deep down in the comments. I should have pulled that up, but like if you look in that lower right there, the before and after, if you find this post and zoom in on that, it's amazing work. Yeah,
we were actually talking about this in our studio today because we were wondering how that was done, because looking at it, I think it's a whole new hairpiece that they sculpted and put on there, because we were wondering if they just like sculpted extra hair on top of the hair that she already has, but I really do think that that's a whole new piece. So I don't know if that's if they made that out of like an epoxy sculpt, or if they 3D sculpted that and used like a flex resin or something, but it does look amazing. It creates this great look of it blowing in the wind. And
and I can't remember if one person did the hair and another person did the face repaint, or if it's the same person. But yeah, it's outstanding work.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that face is already one of the most gorgeous heads that they have in the line, and then the way this person just took it to a whole different level is amazing.
And that's something I'm surprised we don't have more of, is for those
a hair pack.
Yeah, well, not a hair pack maybe,
but
but even like just 3D companies making like a hair accessory that could pop in there.
I know Noble Bear, Anthony out, and then they were talking about, they were trying to prototype that. I don't know if that's like kind of gone into the background of projects, but they were making like a bald head, I think for male and female, and they were going to make hair out of like the flex resin. But I know flex resin is still some of the more expensive stuff at the moment.
And it's real tricky to work with, because it's like it has a certain amount of bend, but then at some point it just snaps. It's very tricky.
And we went the distance with some extra this week, coming from the new Legion's group, The Brood, all dedicated to the vampires. Curtis pulled this one out.
Cool.
Yeah, this was Scott Baker, and I really wanted to focus in on the one there with the whether it's Vargas or Vorthog, or it could have been, I'm not sure where that head came from with the beard.
Oh, the
There's a few of
Bryophytus.
there's a few of those, bearded orc heads now. But he said that it was painted by Nikki. He picked it up at Legion's Con, and it is an absolute dead-on match for that Varg body. It is perfect. And then the eyes, it's kind of hard to see from this picture, but the eyes are like this real bright red with a black outline on it. And it's just seeing that head as a vampire orc, I guess, it's phenomenal.
It's super cool.
Yeah, great work there.
Absolutely. Yeah, and this announcement will be coming much later in the show, but Scott Baker will be on the show next week. So
sweet.
We'll get to talk to him about this when we get there.
Yeah.
My last pick for the week was this, another outdoor shot that I think is pretty great. I love seeing the different look of Afarius with the different, the helmet. Reminds me of the mini, like the tabletop mini that they showed back in the fall. So I just like seeing people doing stuff with the centaur. So
yeah, I like how they got that shot where he's, up on the back legs, and he's, kind of, I mean, I don't appreciate him stomping orcs, but it's
yeah, I didn't think of that when I pulled it. Sorry, Curtis.
It's a good action scene. Yeah.
At least it's not Gorthok, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And this last one,
Yay, look at that. I picked this one. Super cool.
Who on earth did this thing?
I don't know.
Right?
Someone who has some work to do.
Has some love for Thistlethorn, I think, which is one of my favorite Mythic Legions, and I just thought this was super cool. This was your Cabal Creations entry, right?
Yep.
And it was great that you also included some of the process, sort of that sped up kind of,
Yeah.
I always love watching that because I can't draw to save my life, so it's always fascinates me to see that, and turned out really cool. It's a nice work, Jesse.
That what was it, like stop motion animation or whatever that came with it? That was like really cool.
Yeah, it's just a default thing that comes with the iPad on the Procreate app. It records all your steps, so it's really just remembering what you do. It's not like it saves it as a video.
Gotcha.
So yeah, you can like compress it to like a 30-second clip, and I just think it's fun, and I wanted to make sure no one's like didn't think I was referencing the head, but I was like looking at the head on my tablet, like on the what do you call it, Safari, and then I'd like swipe up, just kind of like try, because I had like the ears were too high up, and you can see in the video I move them down and everything. But yeah, I wanted to, originally I had a more complicated image. I'm like, I just want to make a snarling Thistlethorn, so I just went with that.
It's cool, man. Nice work.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good stuff.
And I think that brings us to, yeah, that's the end of the self selections for this week.
Awesome.
Good stuff. That was fun.
Absolutely.
You guys had some great picks.
Yeah,
likewise.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into it.
Yeah, Nate. So you are one of the hosts of the Legion's Lounge.
Yes.
On the 1/6 Shooter channel.
Yep.
How did that get started? How did you get pulled in with them? I mean, you do toy photography and all that stuff. We'll dig into a little bit of that, but how'd you get hooked up with Trevor and Bill?
Well, Trevor started doing like Mythic Mondays, like a live Instagram a while back, and he'd kind of have a variety of different people on there, but I seemed to be getting invited back more and more and more to it. Sort of became a regular thing, and then he decided to move it over to YouTube to his 1/6 channel, and then Bill kind of he wasn't almost like a full-time co-host like myself right in the beginning, but he kind of kept coming back to where finally, we're like, dude, let's just make this a threesome, and worked out great. He's an awesome addition, and I'm just so thrilled that kind of got started and it's keep going. And you know, I just I love being on it, and it's a blast. Trevor and Bill are so good at doing their channels, so I'm just kind of riding their coattails a little bit.
Yeah.
But I just, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things along with everything else that's come along with this that, you know, 5-6 years ago, if someone would have said, of, you know, you'd be on a regular on a YouTube show, I'd have been, you know, get the heck out of here, man. You know?
Well, that's always a fun thing when that's on Monday night. So I always look forward to being able to join in the chat and see what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, and I, you know, I say this too all the time. And you guys know us as having shows. You know, you come on a few minutes ahead of time. Sometimes you'll hang out after a little bit, and sometimes I wish it was more than just every other week, because this is my chance to, you know, geek talk with my buddies. You know, besides having the guests and stuff we have, and I love that, but you know, I don't have people near me that I kind of hang out with and do this kind of stuff with. So that for me is super great too. You know, just hanging with your buddies.
Awesome.
Yeah, and you guys do create a very unique vibe, in my opinion, because it does feel like this late night lounge type setting. Like, I know you guys don't typically drink on the show too much anymore, but you used to, you know, you'd always have your glasses out and stuff, and sometimes I'll see you with yours, but it does feel like this, you know, hey, we're just hanging out, having some drinks and BS, and so yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Cool. Yeah. We appreciate everyone who joins in, and I love following the chat. It's a blast. Everyone just lively conversation there, and, you know, adds to the entertainment value always. So it's a good time.
Absolutely.
You guys have had a few crazy ones lately where you're, you know, rotating guests in, and it's like, man,
Yeah.
every 5 minutes you're bringing somebody on, and
Yeah.
you know, that's got to be a little bit stressful trying to work everybody in there and getting them on and off. And
Well, again, like, kudos to Trevor. He's the man behind the buttons, you know, mostly. So
yeah,
yeah, he does a super great job. And like I said, Bill's obviously with Dark Layer and stuff. He's, you know, knows all the technical aspects of it. But yeah, it's for the most part been super smooth and just a total blast.
Excellent.
yeah, your Road to Legions Con was awesome. Like
I love doing that. Yeah.
yeah, I think it really set up a lot of those artists so that people knew, you know, kind of what things to expect that they were going to have at Legions Con, and really built up a lot of hype for the individual artists and stuff. So that was really cool.
Cool. Good. Glad to hear you say that. Then mission accomplished.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So Nate, tell us a little bit. We know you do some amazing photography. Like,
Thank you.
where did that come from? Where did it start? Like, what was, you know, like what are the beginnings
Cool.
of you
Thanks,
in
Danny.
photography?
I mean, going way back to maybe middle school. I liked photography. I never took any classes or anything, but I had a 35 millimeter. I mostly like to take just, you know, your typical scenery, kind of landscape kind of stuff, nature stuff. Every once in a while, I might set up a goofy still life kind of picture. But yeah, I mean, I've always appreciated and loved photography, but I never knew what the hell I was doing. I always shot an automatic. I never understood f-stops and apertures and ISOs. And it's too complicated for me. And it still kind of is to some extent. But yeah, I've always enjoyed it, and my kids got into it. And, you know, when we'd go on trips, we'd just have one camera. So it'd be like, oh, it's my turn, you know, and we'd kind of be wrestling for it. But, like I said, I've always loved doing it. And then when I discovered that toy photography was a thing, I'm like, well, that sounds fun, you know, and
Yeah.
it's just taken off from there. And I've learned a ton. I still have a crap ton to learn, but I've really enjoyed it. And, you know, with modern day cameras now, with the screen on the back and not film, you know, it's like you instantly can see what you're doing or doing wrong or doing right. And so, yeah, it's been a blast.
What kind of camera are you rocking these days?
I use Canon. I've had those for whatever reason over the years and just got comfortable with them. So it's a T7i model.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a old Rebel XL.
Okay. Yeah. You know, Canons. Yeah.
I've got a what's it called? Oh, an iPhone.
Hey man, some people do amazing stuff with their iPhones.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as you're setting up to do a toy shot, a scene. What
Thanks,
are
man.
the things that go into that for you? Because obviously there's a lot of, whether it's diodes, backgrounds, getting the lighting right, what, figures or parts and stuff that you're going to use. So how do you approach doing a toy shot like that?
A couple different ways. Usually the ones that work out the best are an idea that kind of fully forms close to what I envision that being in the end, just
Mm-hmm.
will pop into my head. And I've got a list of in my notes, on my phone of different ideas and stuff. And I like to try on my page, or I have in the past, to try and mix stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, legions have taken over for good reason. So that's the majority of my pictures. But so, if I shot a legions this week or on a Wednesday, on Friday, I might want to shoot a Spider-Man or a Star Wars photo or something like that. So anyways, I again, if I have an image in mind, then I can come down here and just kind of put it together. But sometimes I do feel like, God, I haven't shot this particular figure yet.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll just kind of, I guess sort of pick a setting for it, based on, like, a good example would be, I got a head from Noah
Mm-hmm.
from Legions Con, and it's a really cool sculpt, but the hair is kind of like blowing kind of forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, I'm going to need like a soft good. So I think I can kind of match that, sort of the wind kind of coming from behind. So I found that. And then I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, well, what kind of setting? And it's obviously got to be outside, would kind of match that. And I ended up I wanted to finally envision them up on sort of a cliff top or mountain top overlooking whatever, but you kind of can see the background.
Right.
So it just sort of starts piecing itself together. And then I find the background. A lot of people, there's a guy, I'm struggling with his last name, Jason Work more or less. He's on Instagram, but he sort of was one, I think, the pioneers of what they call the digorama. So it's finding a picture
Oh.
online that you can
Mm-hmm.
use as a background, that you can just put on your laptop, or if you've got a TV screen or whatever. And then you get like a certain filter that so it, helps with the light and reflections and all that. So yeah, it's just a matter of putting pieces in and taking stuff out and playing around with the lighting. And, if you've got a light source, say it's a moon or the sun coming from behind, then you try to match that as best you can. Or the recent shot I put up of Valak, where he's
Mm-hmm.
holding a torch and there's a couple behind him, like stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah, that was
It
great.
makes the job a little bit easier, because then you know where the light's coming from. So you just can try and match that, as opposed to just having some, every once in a while, have just some kind of, I'll just hold a light in my hand and just kind of move it around and think, oh, okay, that starting to dig where that's coming from. So a lot of it's experimenting.
Mm-hmm.
And back when I first started this, I had everything kind of in tubs and stuff, and I would take them out, and I had a bar in my basement, and I'd set it up super quick there and
Mm-hmm.
jam through a bunch of pictures. Then I'd take it all down, load up on my computer, and hope I got something good.
Right.
Because my wife didn't really dig having my toys all out, in our basement like that. So it's always kind of a rush. Well, I've moved into like a storage room, and I've sort of
Mansion. Oh,
taken that
gotcha.
over. Yeah, no. Yeah. I guess the point is that I've got a space where I can keep a setup up,
Mm-hmm.
I don't rush stuff like I used to. Although this today's pick I just posted, I did kind of rush that. I'm kind of bummed about that. But anyways, um, because every once in a while, I'll set something up, I'll live with it for a bit, I'll take a bunch of pictures, I'll keep them on my computer, and then overnight or something, I'm like, oh, you know what? If I move this light there, or change this prop there, or change this pose a little bit, and I'm like, now that's much better. So it's
Mm-hmm.
great having the time to do that. It makes a huge difference.
Well, I noticed that you kind of have a group of folks that you guys all will post these
Jason Yang,
shots.
thank you.
Yeah, you'll have post these shots and have stories with them. And that's one of the things that I really love about when I see you post something, is that it's not just a picture. It's like this whole story that goes with it. So like one of the ones that we highlighted last week on our shelf selection, you did one where it was a Magnus body, but it had this head that's from, I believe, Planetary Dog Toys, and
Yeah.
it's standing right in front of the fountain. and he's just kind of like gazing at the fountain before going into battle, and it's got this whole story with it. And that was one of, I believe, Alexander Dushaw's fountains. So it's like you're incorporating these pieces from different artists in the community, which is also great. And then you're telling this story. And then, but even if I don't read the story and I just look at the picture, the great thing about the photo is that it tells me that same story. Like, so like typically I'll see the picture first and then I'll go read the story and I'll go, that's exactly what I got. Like when I look at the picture, that story is what I had in my head.
Well, that's cool. And that's the perfect word for it too, because to me that's what this is all about, is storytelling.
Yeah.
You know, so for a living, I work in a creative, in a creative field, which is, you know, oftentimes can be super frustrating. You're put in a box, you've got expectations for clients and bosses and budgets and all that stuff. So this is my storytelling outlet that I can just do whatever I want on my own time. You know what I mean? And that's what I try to do with my photos, is tell a story, whether I write something with it or not. I hope that they do that. And then there's the Myth and Fantasy Toy Pick collab that happens pretty regularly on Sunday nights / Monday mornings, depending where you are in the world. But that's fun to be a part of. And there's been times where I think the beginning of last year of 2022, that sort of followed a story. Like each week you're supposed to kind of continue sort of a chapter, and that went on for, I don't know, a couple months, which was really fun to do. And it could be kind of challenging too. Because sometimes sort of the one-offs are, you know, not easy, but a lot easier than, you know, keep kind of making sure you're, you know, hitting those beats in a story and keeping the quality up and all that. So yeah, it's fun. I love being able to do it. And it's just been the best creative outlet, because like I said, I can get frustrated at work, not being able to do, not having that fulfillment that I wish, you know, I had as much. So
yeah, I you know, the telling the story is like Curtis said, is really powerful. Like you and Trevor both do really good work with that, like where you just see it, and just the way you had that Valak posed with the torches, just the movement you felt like was really cool. And that one with the fountain, just the reflected, just reminded me of the beginning of Gladiator, you know, when he's got running his hand through the wheat, there's like the bird and stuff, you know, it just kind of had that kind of a vibe to it. And that's kind of what actually got me into wanting to buy more Legions myself, was when I saw the Xylonis flock from the Alithia wave stuff, because I had Thistlethorn. I'm like, oh, and this whole story started to come. I haven't done those pictures yet, but
and that's we've all said this from the beginning. That was one of the great appeals about Mythic Legions in the beginning, that they didn't have such an established like IP with them, kind of, you know what I mean, like a long history. And so when you got them, you could do whatever you wanted with them. You know, they didn't necessarily have to fall within the lore that they did create, which is fantastic. And the more that's getting built, the more I sometimes feel like I want to continue within that, you know, Mythic Legion mythos world. But at the same time, I just, you know, with all the, especially the customs and stuff that aren't necessarily a Mythic Legion exactly, you get to make up backstories and what they're doing and everything like that. So, but I never let that necessarily box me in any ways. I've always kind of enjoyed doing the mashups, you know, like, you know, if you want Alien and a Star Wars character or whatever, you know, I sometimes it's fun doing that too. So,
yeah. So it sounds like you've been interested in photography for a while, and then you kind of moved from, you know, nature and that kind of photography towards more like toy photography. Were you always interested in toys too, or did that kind of come along as you know, started getting in? Like, were you interested in toys and then you started photographing them, or did that come along with the photography?
Well, I've always been interested in toys. I mean, obviously as a kid, I totally was all into them. And then in my early 20s, I got back into collecting big time. That took a turn into a more focused collection. And then I completely got all out of that. And then like a lot of us, when Force Awakens came back out, I started collecting Black Series, and it kind of, in a way, it went hand in hand. Like the more I started, I guess, more as a collector, but the more I got into the photography end of it, I'm like, am I a toy photographer? Am I a toy collector? It was, you know, kind of even after a while. Yeah.
So nowadays, obviously you're into Mythics, but what other toy lines do you collect right now?
Mezco. I love Mezco. I just got my Conan in over the weekend, the new Conan, and it's weird. He was supposed to come with that accessory pack,
Mm-hmm.
and I opened up the box. I'm like, what the heck? It's not in there. So I instantly went on, the account, and it does show on, because I ordered them at the exact same time, and it says partially fulfilled or something like that. So I'm like, okay, at least I know it's coming. But I don't know why they didn't. It said it was coming together, but it didn't. But so, anyways, I love a lot of the Mezcos. I love their original stuff. And I've been a Black Series collector since 2015, 2016. I've slowed way down on those. I have way too many. Sometimes I wish I'd only done the original trilogy, but then I always tell myself, well, then I probably would have loved the Mando stuff, and then I would have loved the Bad Batch stuff, and it just would have kept going anyway. So I'm not kidding anybody here, but and then fairly recently I started collecting the Joy Toy 1/25th scale mechas.
Oh boy, I hear that's a rabbit hole.
Oh my God, they're so cool, and I totally blame Eric LeBron for that one. But yeah, I've got like 6, and I only have opened half of them, and I want to open them and shoot them and play with them. I haven't gotten around to them, and I think they're the coolest damn things. And when I first got back into this, besides Black Series, I was just real Star Wars and a lot of 1/6 stuff, because that's what I did back in the 90s. I was big into 1/6 scale stuff. So I had a lot of well, not a lot, nowhere near like Trevor a lot, but I had some Hot Toys, Star Wars stuff, and some 3-0 like Game of Thrones figures. I was super in love, and I still am, with 3A's World War Robot from Ashley Wood. He left that company, and now he's like with Underverse, I think it's called, but they make some just super, super cool looking figures. But I've mostly gotten rid of most of my 1/6 just for space, and it's harder to shoot them.
Yeah.
Just because of how big they are, because you need props and sets and stuff that match that scale, and then it's just a whole new ball game. But yeah, I still really like those.
Well, we got a smart ass question here from Anthony Houseal. Wants to know what your favorite toy from your generation was as a kid. A stick, a rock? So
a stick or a rock? It was a stick, but it was with that wheel, that you just kind of roll that wheel there. Yeah.
Gotcha.
That was,
graduated to ball in a cup.
Right.
Gotcha.
I was thinking that metal thing that had that wheel that would spin down and loop up, like the little.
Oh yeah.
Remember those?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Just remember, Anthony, he can buy and sell you. Okay.
Yep. Anthony disappears.
There you go.
Well, speaking of Star Wars, how excited are you for the Cosmic Legions?
Oh my God, I just over the moon with it, and especially now that we've been seeing people get those test shots in hand, and they were getting it really. I mean, we got to see some of that stuff up close, with G-Con and Legions Con stuff, but now with the reviews that Bill's been doing and the cool stuff that Gerard's been doing with them, I'm like, I can't wait. I cannot wait. I'm super excited for him, but at the same time, I'm a little bit. It's causing me a little anxiety, just because I just know that that's just gonna be another massive rabbit hole that I'm gonna absolutely love diving headfirst into, with no end in sight. But yeah, I can't wait. Super, super excited.
And I feel like with Cosmic, so many other lines you can mix for like background characters. So between Star Wars and the Joy Toy stuff,
oh yeah,
there's a lot. It'd be a lot easier to put those with your legions and not look as strikingly different, because the alien words do get a little bit more easy to
for sure.
those lines.
Yeah, it definitely opens up a whole world of fodder, accessories, things like that we haven't been able to use with Mythic because it just didn't fit the aesthetic. And now it's like the aesthetic's out the window. It's like,
Yeah.
Walking into that cantina scene in A New Hope, and you see all these crazy looking things that are all different from each other. Who knows what you could find in Cosmic. So
yeah, it's gonna be a blast to play around with that stuff, and I can't wait to see what the 3D or 3D independent companies that we all know and love are crank out stuff. And Lord Steven was just talking about how excited he is to paint, because that we've got a whole new crazy cool palette that you guys are going to be able to play with. Legions sort of has more of the fantasy kind of earthy sometimes tones, and armor and things like that. But with Cosmic, I think it's gonna be anything goes.
Oh yeah, I mean, you all of a sudden bring in some bright colors we haven't been able to use, or maybe even like some of the there's a lot of color shift metallics and stuff now that you really haven't had a chance to do too much with a knight or an orc or something like that. You're not going to do like crazy color shift metallic. I mean, you could, but it wouldn't really look right with the aesthetic. But yeah, with Cosmic, it opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
So I'm excited for all that stuff. I'm sure our minds are going to be blown. I can't wait.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be great. I'm going to be forcing my Cosmic Legions into my realm of mythics. Something's going to happen to bring them into Mythos, and I know a lot of people like to say the sci-fi stuff has a lot more unlimited possibilities than fantasy. I mean, you can when you get into robots and all that stuff. I guess you could get into kind of some steampunk, but for me, like the Sphexians, I can't wait to figure out a way to work them into like this weird mythic legion, like hive, like a buzz off or something from Masters,
Yeah. Yep. There's definitely going to be some areas of crossover. I'm sure some of those sculpts, are going to work great in Mythics.
Yeah.
Vice versa too.
So, being a big Star Wars fan like you are, would you say that growing up you were more into the cosmic type stuff than you were sword and sorcery, or what?
Probably a little more. Yeah. I never played Dungeons and Dragons. I always wanted to. I had some of the books and the very first like Dungeon Master kind of books. I just love flipping through and reading them and looking at all the pictures. And I always loved fantasy, the classic movies. But I mean, Star Wars is definitely my first love for sure.
That's cool.
Well,
so go ahead.
That seems like a good segue maybe into something, but you go ahead and run that question first.
No, yeah, I'm done. You go ahead. Have at it.
Well, you talked about your Conan, and you're talking about the art in fantasy books. So there was some talk about a particular artist that's really well known in the fantasy realm. So I grabbed a couple shots here.
Yep. So
Frank Frazetta, baby.
Kind of started having some discussion this week about Frazetta, and the reason why this came to me as something to discuss is because I'm not a huge fan. I'll just throw that out there. I'm sure I'm going to get murdered in the chat and probably just in this discussion, but I'm not a huge fan. I feel like the artist, I mean, he very talented for sure. And I know that a lot of the artists that I really love have been inspired by his work. So that's great. But I personally believe that the hype or the amount of love that his work gets is greater than the work itself. That's my personal opinion, but it's just not my style of art. I look at it, and to me, it's not what I enjoy. So I'm interested to hear what you guys think. Hype, legend. Am I wrong? Why am I wrong? And so let's see what you guys got.
Well, I'd start off with just questioning, like, why is it not for you? Is it the style? Is it the subject matter? Is it the renditions of male and female? I'm curious to hear what doesn't do it for you.
I think to me, it's not as clean as I'd like it. It's not clean, realistic lines, and it's more blurry. You've got to kind of imagine and feel what's going on rather than seeing it. I mean, you know, I'm a guy that if there's a book and a movie, I'm going to watch the movie, and whereas I know a lot of people like to read a book because they can imagine in their own head what's going on. I'm kind of the same way with art. I want you to show me what it should look like, not make me kind of guess or feel what it should look like. And that's what I get when I look at his. It kind of feels like there's kind of a haze over it, or it's just not all finished, is my impression. So like to hear what you guys think.
Jesse, have at it.
I didn't grow up knowing his name, but I had seen some pictures somehow as a kid. And like his art to me is as definitive as Tolkien in for writing. And that it's just, there was something, I guess, just in that time in the 80s and when I would see this stuff. However, whether I saw like a heavy metal magazine on a shelf somewhere that maybe I wasn't supposed to be or whatever, but I mean, Curtis, I totally get what you're saying about it not being as sharp and defined, but there's something I like about like this one.
Mm-hmm.
Like I look at this and I just feel frigid cold, just like that really sparse sky up above with the real fade down to the, and yeah, I mean, it does, like, he's got a very shadowed face. I can't really zoom in anymore, but there's just something very...
Like, see, this one here does nothing for me at all. Like, I feel like I look at this and I'm like...
You're trying to start a fight now.
I mean, I look at this and I don't see the face. I don't, like, everything is shadowed and dark and blurry. And it's like, I don't get it. I don't get it. So I'm hoping that you guys can open my eyes. So what am I missing? Like in this photo here, or this art here, Nate, tell me what I'm missing about this.
Well, first of all, I will say that, all art is subjective, right? Except for Frank Frazetta. There should be no question here whatsoever. I mean, I think like he is amazing at bringing feeling and emotion and drama and power and movement from a static still image. And yeah, he's great at contrast. He's great at, the light and the dark, like he's, the shadows. And I love his color palette. In this, it's very fantasy. And you said like he has inspired a lot of artists that you like, but it is his style. It's I mean, I think he kind of revolutionized fantasy and sci-fi art back in the 50s and 60s. And you definitely know a Frazetta painting, but he never, I don't think ever tried to come off as like a fine artist. He was a commercial artist. But it's definitely sort of, I guess, that Renaissance style kind of painting, but he put his own kind of spin and flair on it. Just, I think his characters are, larger than life. Just there's obviously tons of testosterone, fueled in his imagery, but at the same time, his women can be very powerful and very feminine and soft at the same time. I think the way he does his animals, like he's, hear this horse, but, tons of felines, cats and saber-toothed tigers. And yeah, there you go. Snakes, sharks, gorillas, but like I said, I think he's great at capturing motion and movement. And yeah, I think adventure. I don't know. I could keep going on and on about Frank.
No, that's great. That's good.
And
I will say that this horse here, when I look at this horse, it does look very strong, muscular, scary. Like I don't want that horse charging at me for sure. So I will say that, like, that it does look a very intimidating horse.
Well, you don't want the horse, but the death dealer doesn't look intimidating to you either. You wouldn't
Not
want to.
really. I don't know what's going on in the shadows there. Like,
Well, that makes it even more dark.
Yeah,
that's what scary, and
that could
that's
be
what
Billy
gets me
Beige
more.
there holding a weapon. I ain't gonna be scared of that. I don't know.
If Billy Beige was sitting on a horse and looked like that, I would be terrified. I mean, that right there, that's the Mythic Legion's horse. Like,
Yeah.
that's the Headless Horseman. That's Aethon, just all black.
Yeah.
Just that strength, the big kind of like the thicker hair down at the hooves and everything. I think one of the things with his art is like it's like you were saying, the book lets you to make up your own version of things. Like I feel like his stuff, it's giving me enough details that I'm going to picture the character correctly, but still different from the next person. But we're going to describe this guy with black hair and a beard riding a chariot pulled by polar bears, or and there's something very dream like about his stuff that I love, because it's got a lot of details. And I did not grab a very good rendering of this particular image. This one's really, really pixelated. This just remind, like, obviously stuff like the scene in 300 when they come up across that corpse tree where all the bodies are nailed to it, like the feel, like the lighting in the image, like, you hear that like music building up, and you just hear that fire crackling in the background and the smell of the smoke. Like, his stuff feels very visceral to me.
Yeah, visceral is a great word.
Same with musicians and things. Like, I appreciate like the rawness and the sincerity in it more than necessarily like the defined perfect rendering. For me, like this, just the tension in that tiger creature, like, it just is electric to me. Yeah,
and I think you said dreamlike. I mean, that's what better word to use for sci-fi and fantasy. That's what it is in a way. But I mean, it's compositionally, the way he comes up with his artwork too, and where your eye's supposed to go. It's I think he's incredible. And yeah, I mean, a big influence on, I mean, yeah, obviously you can't deny his influence, but I mean, even stuff I do. And I know Trevor has said that quite a bit too.
Oh yeah, Trevor was very vocal with me this morning on the Why Was Gonna Kill Me podcast. Yeah, because we talked about that we were going to have this discussion, and I will say that the impact that the man's art has had on
denying that
we're doing. I mean, we've heard Treadaway say that he was an inspiration. I mean, I'm a huge Masters of the Universe guy. I know most of the artists that worked on Masters of the Universe, like, huge inspiration to them as well. So a lot of the things that we do and love would not be possible if it weren't for his art. So I will throw that out there. But the one thing that I will say, and it's something that Jeremy DeWitt always likes to say when he's showing his junk on the Why Was Gonna Kill Me podcast, I likes what I likes. And the flip side of that is I don't likes what I don't likes. And for me, this just isn't for me. And that's okay. We don't all have to like the same things.
Sure.
I appreciate the people that do like it. I appreciate, what inspiration it's led to, but it's not for me. And that's okay. We're not all going to like all the same stuff.
That's true.
Yeah. But
yeah,
I want to read you guys something, because I posed this to our very own Nate Barch, and just asked him what I was missing, and I got a response from him that he told me that I could read on the show.
Well, great. Before you do that, I was going to say, I know, Jesse, you're a great artist, and Trevor is too. So I'm not trained. I don't know. I'm not an art major. I know nothing about art hardly, other than what I like to see, just like what you don't like to see. So I'm highly anticipating Nate's response here.
So here's what he said. He said, "Hey, Curtis, I personally love Frazetta's work, slop and all." He said, "I guess I don't see it as slop," which, by the way, was not my word. That's what he said. He said, "I tend to enjoy impressionism. You see it a bit in my work too, but there are times that I hone in on the details and times where it doesn't matter. Like a camera focused on a face, but the rest of the black background can be blurry. To that point, also, art that tries to be photorealistic doesn't impress me as much as a painting where the artist left their brushwork bold and confident. I love a painting that captures the essence of the spirit of something more than the ability to render and blend shapes and shadows. That doesn't have to be, that does have to be admirable ability, sure, but to capture the feeling of a place or a person is what I love more. He goes, and to me, Frazetta's work does that. The energy is there, the soul is there, the inspiration, the awe of other worlds is there. Sure, his anatomy falls apart at times. There's flaws to his style, and he always has been confident of that. It works with his design aesthetic. He's a storyteller with his work. Storytelling for me is especially fantasy painting is way more important than photorealistic or over tight illustrations. But that's just me. I often find super tight work to be very stiff, lacking in emotion and connection to the storytelling. That's just me and my preference, and part of why I love his work. I don't intend to change your viewpoint or opinion. I can respect that. We all have our preferences. Beauty is always in the eye of the beholder.
Well, leave it to Nate for being very diplomatic and, of course, very kind and nice in his response. But yeah, what he said was, I think, nailed a lot of it for me too. It's just like you said, it's not perfection. He has, he exaggerates body parts and stuff, but not to the point that they're, ridiculous.
I will
And it's very
say,
fluid and a lot of movement, like I said.
I will say, when I read Nate's response, I got a little teary eyed. I gotta admit, like
It's
he
beautiful.
he makes some very good points, and I understand the emotion that he sees in the art, and I can appreciate people that are able to see that. Maybe that's just something that maybe that's a trained eye. It's something that I don't have, maybe that. But I appreciate that somebody can look at a photo like this and that's what they get. Like they feel that emotion inside. And it's more important than how crisp the lines are. So I think that's cool.
Like the first artist I think of that, I'm not comparing him, but I know he was very inspired by Frazetta, but his style is so different, at least his line work. Frank Cho. You familiar with Frank Cho, Curtis?
I have. Yeah, I've seen his work.
So, I mean, some of this stuff, like he's done versions of stuff like This Woman with a Tiger. Like he's done his like Jungle Girl stuff. And like, I love his stuff, but like looking at the Frazetta stuff, I was like, man, the Frazetta gives me a lot more of the impression and the feeling of the moment. Whereas the Cho stuff to me is more of like a capture of something that's actually happening, whereas allowing to pull me into it. But, and again, that's not wrong or right for what you do and don't like. I mean,
I think it comes out in, my customizing my work. I was doing that show with Jeremy a couple Sundays ago, or I think it was last Sunday, and he was showing two versions of the Judge character from the God's Fire series, and he was showing mine and Steven's, and it's the same character, same story, same backstory, but they look completely different. And Steven's is very dirty and muddy and like he's been in battle and things are torn up, and mine is very crisp and clean and the lines are pretty and he looks like he's in the temple, and you know what I'm saying? And that's just, I like things that are clean and crisp and straight and organized and not messy. So that maybe that's just my aesthetic that I like, but I appreciate the conversation. I thought it was a good conversation. I really loved Nate's response. And I like to hear what those kind of things mean to folks. So that was good. I like that a lot.
cool.
Yeah, that was great. Great response.
Yep.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not trained in art in any way. I just kind of go by what, sort of the keywords that pop out to me, in describing stuff. And I think I covered a lot of them, but feeling is obviously super important.
And we kind of talked about that with your photography as well. You know, the what you're trying to get the person to see and feel from the
Yeah.
shots.
Yeah. Like,
So-
yeah, whether it's, oh, that's clever, or I make them laugh, or wow, that's cool, or just, yeah, it's exactly. Yep. Hey, there he is. What's up, Trevor.
You'll just have to go back and listen,
Trevor.
Trevor.
Yeah,
Right?
you missed
Yeah.
your triggering segment, so you're all
Yeah.
good.
You'll be able to
Apparently-
sleep better. You'll be able to sleep better, Trevor. It's all good.
Apparently, Anthony thinks this is going to be our series finale.
Well, we're canceled now.
Yeah.
So-
yeah, Trevor, go back and watch it. I really schooled him. So
Nate, since you're talking about wanting to do this more often, I might be looking for a new co-host for my new show.
All right, cool. Yeah,
no,
do it.
we
No,
can all like different things, and I
Yeah, 100%.
do have a newfound respect for the work after some of the folks that I've talked to over the past week. So that's great.
Well, plus I think from maybe what I heard is that it's not that you don't like it. It's just that it's not as, it doesn't resonate as much.
Right.
Maybe
I
as
didn't
with
get it. I
most
didn't
of
get
us.
it. Like it's to the point where, you know, there's a new toy line that there's a Kickstarter coming on for.
Yes.
To where they've promised a lot of Frazetta type work within that line, and people are losing their minds.
Yeah.
And I just look at it and I go, what am I missing? Like I'm missing something here. And I feel like through the conversation that we've had and, you know, what we got from Nate Barch, I feel like at least I understand what I'm missing, and I'm missing the emotion in the art. And that may not be something that I ever look at and see, but at least I understand what other people see. So,
Well, you're just sort of a cold SOB to begin with, Curtis. So it's really no shock.
there you go.
I was going to say, I got to correct Danny. Yeah, no one here said anything about Liefeld being better than anyone. So, Danny, I'm watching you, Caulfield. Coddle.
I'm lying.
Yeah.
Trying to get Trevor riled up.
Yeah. I don't know enough about, someone asked, I think Dave Orkin asked what we thought about Boris Vallejo. I don't know enough about his stuff to be able to hold that conversation well. So maybe that's something we can look at for a conversation with someone else in the future.
Yeah, that'd be, I think he's fantastic too. His work is very influential too. And I know Trevor's a massive fan, so he'd be a great person to have that discussion with.
And he does have a whole line of paints named after him. So
there you go.
There is Arether Rising says, Curtis, you don't even like Mezco. If you had a Death Dealer Conan, your collecting would be changing. It's possible.
Cool name, by the way.
Yeah.
Arether Rising.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have any interest in the Conan. I will say that I've looked at the couple Conans that are out. They don't interest me whatsoever. The Death Dealer is okay. I could maybe see myself getting a Death Dealer, but I don't know. It's just not for me. So I do have I do have plans on picking up my first Mezco though coming up soon, which would be if the '89 Batman ever comes out.
Yeah,
supposed to be getting one of those from formerly Brute Scale Greg.
Right on.
All right, next, go ahead, Jesse.
No, did you have a question you wanted to throw out?
I was just going to go into kind of whatever we're watching or reading or anything else. But if you got something else, go ahead.
Well, I do want to circle back to the favorite toy from your childhood. I know you said you liked Star Wars stuff before, but like, was there something from your childhood or, you know, a certain period of time that holds a really special place in your heart, like a favorite line or a specific figure or anything like that really stuck with you?
Well, my three main things that I just look back super fondly on are Star Wars for sure. That was my main thing. I loved like making setups more than anything. Like I didn't necessarily play with my toys, but I loved making setups with stuff, you know. I'd make a big Death Star scene or the cantina with blocks and just put all the figures in there and just create a scene. And I just liked leaving it like that, you know, for a while. But anyways, so Star Wars stuff. And then I loved the space Legos, was just absolutely, you know, crazy about those. And then there was a line of toys called Adventure People, which I don't know if you guys are very familiar. Do you know what I'm talking about with those?
Yep.
This Fisher Price Adventure People. Okay.
Oh, okay.
You know, they had all kinds of, I mean, you could, you know, dirt bike riders or safari sets or, you know, you're out in the bush on a plane and a boat or scuba divers or parachute. It was, a news team with vans and,
Yep.
surfers and kayaks and all that stuff and tents and Jeeps. I could just go on and on, but I absolutely loved playing with those things. And every once in a while, talking about mashups, I would have my Star Wars world come down to Earth and have a little a collision of lines there, which was kind of fun, but to play.
And did they come out on top?
Oh, Star Wars always kicked their ass. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. But those are definitely my three main ones. And my mom kept most of that stuff too. And I've got a little crate full of a lot of the Adventure People stuff still. And I did a shot with one maybe a year or so ago. It was a fun kind of trip down memory lane to put that together.
I still remember that green dirt bike from the Adventure People. Like I remember how those tires felt in my hand as a kid. Like, oh man,
I'm gonna have to look that up. I don't recall that.
Yeah,
they're like 5 points of articulation. They're most of them are pretty like normal real world looking things, but then they got a couple like space ones that had like translucent.
Oh yeah,
they had like that like computer chip paint on their chest or whatever.
That was helicopters and planes and just all kinds of stuff. I don't know if you remember the guys with the parachutes.
Yep.
You could kind of wrap them around the guy, it was
the little ones
up in the air.
Nylon thing, and just chuck them up in the air. And sometimes they would just catch like an updraft or something, and you'd be running down the street like hoping they weren't going to land on a neighbor's roof or up in a tree or something.
Running cars.
those balsa wood airplane kits, you'd wind up with the rubber bands.
Yeah.
Oh man, those were always fun.
That was good stuff.
Speaking of rubber bands, I'll say my brothers and sister always did this. They scared me to death with these things. They called them rattlesnake eggs. Did you guys ever make those?
No.
It's where you took like a large like plastic or wooden like shirt button, ran it through some rubber bands, twisted it somehow onto like a paper clip, and you would twist it as tight as you could, put it in like an envelope and hold it, and then you'd give it to someone, and as they open the envelope, the button would unravel, but it would hit the paper and it would be like, oh, it would scare the crap out of me. And I always fell for it.
That's funny. No, I never did that.
Never heard of that. But I did see the family special with the rest of your siblings on there. I can believe they would do that to you.
Yeah, Trevor's got a good point here. Adventure People were the basis for the prototype Star Wars figures. So they did.
Oh, really?
They actually took a lot of those and would add, like would sculpt over them or something like for the and that's what they took, and the Kenner took those in to sell them. Yeah, if you if you watch some of the documentaries on those first Star Wars figures, that's exactly what they did. They'd make like a Han Solo adventure person,
Yeah. Well, because they had all that a lot of them had really like 70s looking style to their clothes, which was just the background people in Star Wars. So.
Right. Yeah. The mutton chops and mustaches.
So I've already had some unpopular opinions tonight. So I'm going to throw out another one. And that is that the best thing that about Star Wars is that because of those figures, Mattel had to compete with them and came out with Masters of the Universe. So that's the best thing about Star Wars.
So when do I start? Next Sunday, Jesse?
Yeah. We'll meet up about 15 minutes before the show.
Perfect.
And listen, I'll say, for a few years there, Masters of the Universe kicked Star Wars, but didn't last as long. But for about a good 2-3 year stretch, Masters of the Universe was king of the hill.
Just between movies.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it was fun. It was a fun couple year stretch. So
no, and
I like me some Masters.
Yeah, I mean, I loved Masters of the Universe too, because that was like one of the first things I got into that was like my own. That didn't feel like, even though I knew it was a kid's toy or a kid's show, like it felt more. I can't believe I'm saying this. It felt more adult than like Care Bears and the other shows I was watching at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I think for me as a kid, if the Star Wars that we were getting as kids was like the Black Series that we're getting now, it would have been a different story. But like when you've got that little Kenner thing, and then you've got the big muscly Master of the Universe. I mean, come on, you got to go for the big muscle guy. Like that's just cool.
Well, I mean, Star Wars did try to do that in the 90s.
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, that was funny. But no, I mean the stuff. Some of the I just have never really collected too much Star Wars. I got a few pieces, but some of that Black Series stuff has been pretty good. Like, yeah, it's made me want to get some of that. But I've always loved the movies, but I've just never been a Star Wars toy collector for some reason.
Yeah. Well, it obviously depends on when you grew up. For a lot of us, like Motu and Turtles, they don't mean a thing to me.
Yeah.
I got you guys by a few years, or as Anthony might think, I'm, like decades older than you guys are. But yeah. They were just never in my wheelhouse, just because I'm just older and they were, was out of that scene.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like Pokemon and Power Rangers came out shortly. I just aged out, so those things have like zero interest to me, and I think like, oh, those are just kids things. And I know plenty of people, just a couple years younger than me that love those things. So
yeah,
it's
just those little windows that you
or
kind of
who's
pass through and...
your family or friends, whatever they're into at the time,
Right.
that you get to share in those adventures with. But
yeah, I'm kind of like that with Turtles. Like I just caught the beginning of the Turtles craze. But I was out of toy collecting before it really kind of took off. So, I mean, there's definitely some that I enjoy and think are really cool characters. I think they did a good job of the thing that I always liked about Masters of the Universe and even Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is they made really cool villains that had, just cool backstories and stuff. So I always like that. But
Cool.
Okay. So what are you guys watching right now? What's going on? What's interesting you? I know you guys both really liked Andor, correct?
Oh yeah. I mean,
loved it.
Absolutely. Just they killed it with that. And I think like you don't even have to be a Star Wars fan, I think, to appreciate that show. It's just a kick-ass sci-fi show that happened to be Star Wars, but it was so well done from top to bottom. The kind of phrase that kept going through my head while watching it was like, okay, this is how the pros do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just everything from the cinematography to the locations, obviously the writing, the acting, the storytelling, the wardrobe. It was just, I have zero complaints with that series. Loved it.
Jesse?
I think one of the most powerful things in that show is a lot of the subtlety of it. Like it's not as in your face Star Wars.
Yeah.
But I think one of the best things in that series is Lucien's speech towards the end of the series, where he talks to his mole from in the inside the Empire.
Yeah.
So like you finally got to see, like, because we always think the rebels, I mean, obviously we think the rebels are the good guys. They are the good guys. They're fighting for freedom and everything. And but just to see that gray space, like, we got a little bit of that with Han, but he was the lovable rogue. So, it wasn't as serious. It was just nice to see, because they gave us that in Andor in his character in Rogue One, but to see it like fleshed out a lot more, because the first scene we meet him in that movie, he kills somebody who's asking for his help, and it was like, it's like, oh wait, this is a good guy,
right?
And I'm not a huge so I just really liked how they played with the subtleties and all those variables without you and Curtis both.
Here's what I'll say. I liked Andor. I thought it was a really good series. I thought it was a slow burn for sure. I don't like it more than I do either the first two Mandalorian seasons. But if they were to do like Masters of the Universe in a way like that, where you got to see more of the behind the scenes stuff and the characters you don't get to see as much and what's going on in the palace or what's, like it is what I would want from a franchise that I'm a huge fan of. So for the Star Wars fans, I think it is perfect. I think for the folks that are just kind of casual Star Wars fans like myself, it was good series, but it definitely had a slow burn to it.
Yeah, it started
Oh, it
off a
did.
little bit, yeah, but I just think it was just so much more sophisticated and thoughtful. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, I could see you digging something like that for Motu for sure.
But like for me, so what were your guys' thoughts on Kenobi then?
Go ahead, Nate.
Uh, I liked parts and others I was pretty disappointed with. I don't know if you guys ever got to see some guy like recut the whole series into like a 2.5 hour
no.
kind of
Mm-mm.
piece. I'm not even sure if you can even find it anymore, but he took a lot of, a lot of, stuff that wasn't needed or goofy or
Mhm.
questionable or whatever. And it was really great. It was ended up being a great series. But yeah, I think they missed the mark on a lot of it. Unfortunately, I was really looking forward to it. I might have loved, Ewan McGregor coming back as that character. A lot of things they did get right, but I think they kind of dropped the ball on some others. So
Jesse?
Yeah, I think for me it's seeing Ewan McGregor come back and Hayden Christensen and some of those things were really good. It again, for me, the overall emotion of it worked by the end of the series. So like that's kind of how I gauge everything, is how it makes me feel.
Mhm.
And I try to reserve it until the absolute end to see if the stuff that I don't like in the middle, the early part, gets overdone by the end or outdone by the end. But there's definitely some like questionable choices, and some of it, budget. They were still figuring all this out during COVID, whatever, can make
Mhm.
excuses, but it's definitely not up as high as Andor as far as the overall quality of the actual show and production. But the emotion of it, it lands still pretty high for me because of the payoff for it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like it does feel like, and I think it would have been cool to see like that cut where you're talking about putting it all together in like 2.5 hours, because it does feel to me like they were, trying to meet the needs of having that many episodes and kind of stretching it out. And there was a lot of filler in there.
Mhm.
And there's some, questionable choices on how they got to the payoff. But like that fight scene between the two of them, and the, the mask cut off and the two different voices with Vader, and just being able to have Hayden
Yeah, that was
Christensen
awesome.
kind of redeem himself, like, not that he did anything wrong in the prequel trilogy, but just he took so much heat from folks in that,
Yeah.
initial that prequel trilogy. To see him come back and have that kind of performance,
That was cool.
I thought was awesome.
But
So,
yeah, that's what I mean. It would leave me scratching my head. Like that scene was so well done. And I'm like,
mhm.
how is that by the same people that made, whatever scene, like, two
Right.
episodes ago, I didn't get the continuity there at all. Like, it'd be like I said with Andor, it's just like the pros. This is how the pros
Yeah.
do it, top to bottom. And just a lot of the stuff with Kenobi, and if we're gonna get to the Book of Boba Fett, was, to me, it just felt so incredibly amateurish.
Yeah, I don't know enough about, like, how that show was put together. So I don't know if this is the case, but it did feel like there was like different writers on the episodes, like, and it wasn't like, does that make sense? Like
Yeah,
it
it just
wasn't
didn't feel
one.
cohesive at
Yeah,
all. Yeah.
exactly. That's exactly
But
what I was
just the
thinking.
the quality, not only just the writing or directing of it, but yeah, the
Mhm.
quality of I didn't get it. But I'm all that being said, I'm so happy that we're getting the content we're getting from
Mhm.
Star Wars. I'm like,
Oh yeah. I
you
mean, you
know,
can't. I mean, I don't know. Say what you will about the last trilogy that we got, but the stuff that we've gotten series wise so far from Disney Plus, man, I tell you what, as just a kind of a casual Star Wars fan, I've loved all of it. I mean, even I know people give, Book of Boba Fett a lot of shit, but I enjoyed it. At the end of the day, I had a good time watching it. I think they definitely could have done things a lot differently, but I mean, I love loving all the content that we're getting from Star Wars. So go ahead. You already kind of mentioned Book of Boba Fett, but what are your thoughts, Nate?
to me, that was the biggest disappointment of
Yeah.
everything that we've gotten so far. Yeah, I just didn't get a lot of the choices there. And I thought the directing was awful in a lot of places. The cinematography was terrible. It just felt like a group of college kids made most of it, and not anything against college kids making movies, because my daughter's making one right now, but it just, I'm like, come on, this is Star Wars, right? You should have
Right.
the top people in the business working on this with the top budgets and top writers and everything. So, but again, I don't want to poo-poo on it too bad, because it's Star Wars. I love Star Wars, and when you love something so much, you have a expectation for it. Hopefully you're I'm learning to go in just a little more cautiously optimistic, I guess, on some stuff.
Well,
But
they're going to have a season 2 of that, correct?
I believe so. Yeah,
So
Boba
maybe
Fett?
they'll.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know they were. I thought they were going to bring him back into the Mando story. At
Mando,
some point.
maybe
That's what I thought.
doing.
I see nothing to back that up either way.
Gotcha. I thought that they had set it up for kind of a a series or season 2, but maybe you're right. Maybe they roll that into Mando. But let's say that they were going to do a season 2, Nate, and you were going to point out a couple things that they would need to change going into the next season to try to fix things or get it back on track. What would that be? What would you like to see?
Well, I mean, the Boba Fett that we saw in the Mando series, was more of the Boba Fett I kind of wanted to see. Kind of more of a badass, and I think he still kind of can be that, and is. I just think it was more had to do with the quality of the show than necessarily the story of it, the directing, the editing, the writing. I just would like to see that elevated. I could have gone along with the character development of him, stuff like that, but just how they handled a lot of the quality production of it is what I want to see raised up to a much bigger level, better level. Yeah. How about you, Jesse?
I overall like Boba Fett. There's a couple things I could nitpick about, but like you're saying, Star Wars is Star Wars. I'll take anything they gave us in these Star Wars shows over, this hurts me to say it, Willow, or the way they did Thor Love and Thunder. Those both were things I was really excited for and really, really disappointed me.
Yeah.
There were moments that disappointed me in Obi-Wan and Book of Boba Fett, but not as a whole. I wish we would have seen a little more of the struggle of Boba Fett trying to decide to become different instead of just starting off immediately flip-flopping.
Yeah.
I agree. You see him in action in Mando season 2. I really like that. I wish we could have seen a little more of that, of him establishing himself in on Tatooine before, or he's saying like, hey, I'm trying to do this, and then eased into that. So I like the idea of him trying to move on from because he's been a bounty hunter for 30 something years at that point.
Yeah, no, I don't mind some character development. I'm all for that, and you can change and grow and whatever. But yeah,
the whole him. I mean, they basically gave us Mandalorian, who was the Boba Fett we all wanted from the 80s. Like, they let Mando on his show be that mysterious gunslinger guy that we all thought Boba Fett was supposed to be.
Still kind of in his prime and doing those things. Yeah.
Yep.
So I think, I'll be interested to see. I know some people have a problem with Fennec as his like right hand doing all the badass stuff. I wish we could have seen him doing more, but I absolutely loved her.
Yeah, she's great.
And I'm so mad they killed Jennifer Beals.
Yeah,
like,
right.
How do you, I don't usually talk like this on this show, but like, how do you make a Twi'lek hotter in Star Wars? You make Jennifer Beals a Twi'lek. Like,
there you go.
Like, come on.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that happened too.
And when I saw that first trailer, I was like, holy crap, is that Jennifer Beals as a Twi'lek? Trevor.
Oh boy. That's gonna hurt Jesse's feelings right there.
Does hurt my feelings. But you're I still like you.
Hey, he likes what he likes and he dislikes what he dislikes.
The Willow show. I won't talk about the Willow show. That's its own
This,
episode. Me ranting by myself.
yeah, this show's
So-
turning into kind of a therapy session. We're just getting all this stuff off our chest,
Well,
you know.
So let's finish off this Star Wars segment with Mandalorian. The first 2 seasons. We're getting ready to go into season 3. What have you liked so far? What are you hoping to see in season 3? Start with Nate.
Man, I mean, I'm really enjoying the heck out of the series so far. I think like what we were just talking about, he is the man, the bounty hunter, the Mandalorian type character that we've wanted to see. I think it's got a lot of everything in it. It's got a lot of heart, it's got a lot of action, it's got a lot of humor. Yeah, I really, like I said, I'm trying not to set myself up and try and think too hard of what it could be and set high expectations. So to be honest with you, I haven't really put too much thought into the coming season. I'm just ready for it to unfold and enjoy it as it comes, really.
Jesse?
Yeah, I'm really intrigued to find out more about the new official take on what happened to Mandalore and all of that. And from the trailer, like I'm trying to watch less trailers. Like I'll watch it once, maybe twice, just because I don't want to overburden my expectations and just appreciate the stuff when it comes out. But I like thinking and talk about it with guys like, like in conversations, but I don't want. So for me, yeah, seeing that there's so many new looking, armored Mandalorians in it after his covert had been kind of decimated and abandoned in the season 1. And the whole interaction with him and the armorer and Paz Vizsla in Book of Boba Fett, and them telling him like, oh, you've disgraced yourself, I'm really intrigued to see how he's going to take that, because it feels like he's moving away from just blindly following the creed. But he also I like that this struggle between then meeting the other, the Bo-Katan and her allies. Like I'm really intrigued to see how that's going to play out, and what's going to happen with the Darksaber. Is like I don't want him to become ruler of Mandalore.
Right.
Yeah.
Is
I don't see that happening, but
yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you on. There's some loose ends for sure. I'm anxious to see how they kind of bring stuff, not necessarily loose ends, but some storylines that I think that it'll be exciting to see get fleshed out for sure.
Yeah,
I want to pull up this comment because this is how I feel. I want less Grogu.
See, cold-hearted.
Like, I think it was a good storytelling device. It's helped it get through the first couple seasons, but I was at the end of season 2 where he kind of, passes him off. I kind of thought that was going to open the door for more, just focusing on the Mandalorian lore and things like that. And then we go through the Boba Fett series and now they're back together. And I just hope that we don't get a bunch of babysitting type episodes with, at the, there's going to be times where, he's down on his luck and he can't fight the bad guy. And then all of a sudden the Grogu waves his hand and everything's okay. It just feels lazy to me. And I understand that they've, they're probably selling a lot of Grogu merchandise right now, and you've got to have him in the show. So I get that.
Yeah.
But just give me some moments where, the Mandalorian is off by himself doing his own thing. And he's not having to play babysitter for a majority of the season, and I'll be okay. So, but I've loved everything so far. I just don't want to see more of that continuing. If I can see more awesome fight scenes and things like that. So,
what I want more than anything, I can't wait for Ahsoka.
Same. Yeah.
That she is one of my all-time favorite characters now. I'm not even addressing the comments going on in the chat trying to lure me to talk about my other favorite character that is not Long Shot. Yeah, like I loved introducing her in that episode in Mando season 2, and I cannot wait to see more of that and seeing some of the Rebels characters getting to come back.
Yeah.
I just
I think right now that's what I'm most highly anticipating is Ahsoka series.
Wasn't her performance amazing in that? Like,
Oh,
yeah,
nailed it. Yep.
yeah,
So
like
good.
to see a character, because we've only seen her in cartoon form at this point, right? Before
Right.
that,
Mhm.
and so to bring it to life, it's such a unique character and a unique look. So, doing that with makeup and all that could have gone really bad. And I think instead it went really well. I think that they nailed the look.
Yep.
I think her acting was excellent. And so,
Yeah.
I think that's
Perfect
definitely
bit of
something to look
casting
forward
there.
to.
Yeah, Rosario Dawson she's awesome.
I think I loved how she put so much effort into researching that character to I didn't even realize it the first time I watched it. She was mimicking poses and expressions from the show. It just felt like Ahsoka come to life.
Mhm.
So the arms crossed when she's standing there talking, like that's how she's always talking when Obi-Wan and Anakin were bickering, and
Right.
the
Little
expression on her
snips.
face when she's getting into her action and
Right.
stuff.
Yeah,
For
and
a
it
character,
was done perfectly and subtly enough that you didn't necessarily
yeah, it
you know what
just
I mean? It
felt
wasn't
like the
over the
character.
top. Yeah,
Yeah,
right. It wasn't exaggerated. Be like, okay, she's trying a little too hard to sell it.
yeah,
Right.
It just seemed really natural.
yeah. I absolutely love it. Yeah, and I can't wait to see Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Hera. She's another one of my favorite characters.
Yeah,
So
love Hera. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep. Love that whole Ghost crew and
yep.
love Rebels.
Cool. All right. What else you guys watching right now, or things that have piqued your interest that you'd like to discuss?
Well, I'm really, really loving The Last of Us. I don't know if you guys ever played that game or if you've been watching the series at all, but it's my favorite video game series I've ever played. I used to game quite a bit, and
Okay.
it was incredible. I felt like I was playing a movie, while I was playing that. Just the storyline, that voice acting, the playability, and the graphics and everything were amazing. So this was another thing. I was like, oh my God, please get this right. And so far, I think they've nailed it. I mean, everything from the aesthetic to
Trevor said
that was
episode 3 was
episode
one of
3
the
was
best episodes he's ever seen.
it was it was amazing. So there's two main showrunners with it. One is like one of the guys actually works for brought the game, developed the game, created the game, and then the other guy is Craig Mazin, who I don't know if you guys ever watched Chernobyl, that series, that short series on HBO. It's incredible,
Really?
and it's an unbelievable series. And there was a podcast that went along with that, like an official one through HBO, and he was on it, and just the insight that into the sort of the creative decisions and the writing and stuff like that he would talk about, I mean, just kind of blew my mind. And they're doing the same thing with The Last of Us now too. There's an accompanying podcast that goes with that too, and I'm enjoying the hell out of that as well. But so I'm super thrilled that so far it's been awesome, and it's another, Pablo Pascal is nailing that character.
Yeah.
I just so far I've loved so many different things he's been in, Game of Thrones, and
everybody does. Rotten Tomatoes can't get anything negative on him.
Narcos. I loved him in the beginning.
Yeah.
That I just think he's so good.
I hear the episodes are quite lengthy too. Like you're getting a lot of content from. I mean, I know there's only 3 episodes out so far, but
so far, yeah,
four is probably over by now.
I was just gonna say missing tonight. So if anyone saw it, but
don't anybody talk about episode 4 in the comments.
But yeah, it's an amazing series. I'm so far, like I said, I'm enjoying the heck out of it, and I'm super thrilled that they've already said season 2 is locked and loaded. They're going to do it. So
nice.
That's awesome. I'll have to go and check that out. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard a lot of discussion on it. Sounds like it's really good.
Yeah, and I don't think you have to have played the games or anything to enjoy it.
Yeah,
and it's cool to see the stuff that they switched up to take it from a game that's something that you play and have to make decisions in. See what they've done differently in the TV. And like Trevor was saying, this episode 3 was just like it was kind of a mentioned thing, in the game, but they made an entire show out of a sort of sort of a backstory kind of show, and it was unbelievable TV. Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
great. It's super cool.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll say this: episode 3 really threw me off because I hadn't played the game. I know a little bit about it, but I've never played it, and I look at it now as almost like a much better, longer version of kind of like the Lost flashback episodes from the
Yeah.
show Lost.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, what is this weird flashback? Because I didn't know who these characters were. And by the end of the episode, I was 100, like it was well filmed, well acted. It was really powerful, but I'm like, what is the point of all this? And then you get to a certain moment in the last couple scenes of the show, and I was like, now I know why you had you go through this to get to that point. Like it was important.
Yes.
But yeah, it was a little off-putting at first, just because I was like, we're gonna spend this whole episode here.
Right.
But yeah, I really like the way they did it.
Yeah, I agree too. I was like, what is going on? Is this necessary? But yeah, when you got into it and the payoff, I mean, because I think one of the largest, if not the largest theme in the game and now the show is just it's love, and it's an interesting vessel to kind of tell that story in, like a zombie, like a apocalyptic kind of world. But that's really what this is all about. And so that particular episode really brought that home.
Yeah.
Trevor says, let's see, love episodes of The Walking Dead that focused on side characters too. So I think that's kind of, going back to what we were talking about with Andor. It's interesting to flesh out kind of that backstory and stuff that you may not otherwise see.
Yeah.
So I think that's cool.
Yeah. For sure. As long as it's done well, I'm all for it.
Absolutely.
What about you, Jesse? You got anything else that you're watching?
Yeah, I'm watching that. I'm watching the Vox Machina season 2 and listening. I'm listening to the podcast of the original campaign now, which is all taking place before the events of season 1 of the show, or in between the events of stuff in season 1 of the show. So, yeah, it's nice to listen to that at work because there's so much of it. I know I'll have plenty to keep my attention while I'm at work for the next couple months. But
nice. Yeah, that's a riot. That show's fun as heck.
Yeah, I know Curtis, you were saying you haven't made it past the first couple episodes.
Yeah, no, I couldn't make it past the first couple. I keep, it was just a little too, I don't know if I'd say vulgar, but just, I don't know, it was just a little too much for me. But I hear that after the first, 2-3 episodes, it kind of calms down, and then it's, a pretty fun ride. So I may try to push through. I've just got other stuff that I'm watching now ahead of that before I would get to that point, I think.
Well, it's kind of like Game of Thrones. The first season of Game of Thrones, they really went all out to let you know, hey, there's going to be a lot of sex, nudity, and violence and swearing in this show. And it kind of like eased off as the seasons went on. I feel like Vox Machina is similar.
I will say that I refused to watch Game of Thrones the entire time that it was on. Like I tried to watch like one episode, and I was like, what is this? Like everybody's having sex with everybody, and I don't even get what's going on here. And so I just never watched it. And then a few years after the show had stopped, it was already done and everything, and I heard everybody's pissed off about the last season. I had run out of shows to watch, and I was like, okay, I need a show to binge watch, and I just watched it, and I loved it. It was awesome. So sometimes I just got to get to a point where I've exhausted all my other resources as far as stuff to watch, and then give something a chance, and so that's probably where Vox Machina will fall in.
Did you watch House of the Dragon then, Curtis?
Oh, I thought it was the best thing on TV last year.
Nice. It was
amazing. It was so good.
Yeah.
So good.
So good. Yeah. I'm about ready to dive back into that for a review.
Oh, I could definitely do that.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I could definitely do that. I loved it so much. I enjoyed that more than any season of Game of Thrones. So
it was different, but the same, it was really good. Super well done. So what else are you watching now then?
I got done watching, I talked last week, I got done watching the second season of Vikings Valhalla.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I'd never watched the original series.
I
So
just started that actually.
yeah, I just went back and started watching the original series. I think I'm like on season 3.
Oh, okay.
And so just going through that, and like, it's, first of all, it's very brutal, and there's a lot of cool things that I'm seeing from a Mythic Legion's perspective that I'm like, oh, I need that sword, or I need that weapon, or I need to create a character that's kind of crazy like this and has
Yeah.
tattoos on their face or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Like I see things that I want to incorporate into the customs that I'm making, but then the story itself really draws you in. There's these characters that you really get attached to and stuff. So yeah, really good series. I'm looking forward to watching the rest of that. But I think after I'm done with that, then I'll probably jump into The Last of Us and go from there.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you do comic books at all, Nate?
Not really. I did a little bit kind of in the 90s somewhat. But yeah, I haven't in the last few years at all. I mean,
Okay.
here and there I'll pick up something that kind of catches my eye, but yeah, to me it's just another kind of rabbit hole. And
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like my time's limited to,
Yeah,
like that's why I had to kind of give up gaming. It's like I can't do that and watch series or movies and collect and do photography and whatever else, so
yeah.
Got to pick your battles.
yeah. I appreciate them and I love them. I mean, yeah, it's just something I don't do really.
Fair enough. What about anything you're reading? Any books or any books that you've loved from the past?
I am reading a book right now. I'm almost done. There's an author, his name's Anthony Dower. I think I'm saying his last name right, but he wrote one of my favorite books I've ever read, and it's called All the Light We Cannot See. And now the book I'm reading right now is his latest. It's called Cloud Cuckoo Land, and it's kind of a trip to read. It's really unique. And he's got some books before All the Light We Cannot See, some shorter stories that are amazing too. He's just a phenomenal writer. But they are making, I believe it's going to be a Netflix series of All the Light We Cannot See, and I can't off the top of my head right now remember who the director is involved in it, but he's really good. I mean, the stuff he's made, I think it's in good hands, which, it's one of those things again too. I love the book so much. I'm like, don't frick this, this series up. I mean, at first I had heard they're going to make a movie out of it. And then they just said it's too much to try and pack into a 2.5, 3-hour movie. So I'm so thrilled that they're going to give it the space it needs to be told. It's phenomenal. And he's a great writer. Like I said, this Cloud Cuckoo Land, it's got a little bit of like Greek mythology and almost some sort of fantasy and some sci-fi mixed in it. It's a trip the way it's told too. I can't even hardly describe it, but it's good. So yeah, that's right. That's what I'm reading right now.
Awesome.
Well, we're coming up to Ant-Man Quantumania. We got less than a couple weeks left. So what are you guys' thoughts on that? What are you expecting? I got to say I mean, Wakanda Forever was pretty good. The two before that were pretty rough. Phase 4 altogether, in my opinion, has been very rough.
Mm-hmm.
What are your guys' thoughts going into Quantumania?
Go ahead, Jesse.
I'm not sure. My initial reaction is this looks amazing. It looks like they're really kind of, I know a lot of people hate Rian Johnson in this for Last Jedi, but like subverting stuff with this movie, I feel like they're going to, like, there's always been the emotional weight of the stories in Ant-Man, but they've been a lot more playful, a lot more fun. This one feels like it's going to go heavier on the emotions.
Mm-hmm.
I think the trailer for that and the Guardians trailer both look like these might be tearjerker movies. I feel like we're finally moving into where phase 4 has been very random and all over the place to start to focus this stuff. So I think, and I can't wait to watch, is it Jonathan Majors as Kang?
Yeah,
I loved him as the He Who Remains in Loki, and I'm really intrigued to see what he's going to do with Kang, like as the full-on Kang the Conqueror character. Yeah, I'm excited. My buddy and I have tickets for the IMAX 3D on the Thursday night. So
Nice.
just under 2 weeks. So
Nice. We might have to do like a review episode or something.
That'd be
sure.
cool.
Yeah, that'd be neat.
Well,
What-
I cry at almost everything. So yes, I cried at Guardians too. Like yes, but I think it's going to be different tiers in
Yeah.
Guardians 3.
Yeah, with the kid involved and his daughter.
I think Rocket is going to die.
What are your thoughts, Nate, as we go into Quantumania 2, and then I'll tell you mine.
I think I'm pretty much with you on that, Jesse. What you kind of said too. I kind of get that vibe too. That's going to be darker. Looks great. Sometimes I feel like the spectacle in Marvel movies kind of overshadows sometimes the storytelling and stuff. So
Sure.
I'm hoping that's a good balance there, and I think it's going to be. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
I have not watched anything. I saw the initial teaser trailer for Ant-Man. I've not watched any other trailers. I haven't watched the Guardians of the Galaxy one. I'm trying to keep myself as fresh and spoiler free as possible. Phase 4 is really worn on me. I feel like they've really drug out this whole multiverse thing. Like, I feel like they've been kind of stringing us along with the, mutants are coming and Fantastic Four is coming and all this stuff is coming. It's like, then we go through Loki and you kind of expect some of that stuff to happen and it doesn't happen. And you go through Multiverse of Madness and you expect some of that stuff to come out and it doesn't really come out. You get the one alternate dimension where everybody just gets slaughtered. And so I'm really hoping that the payoff is here on this one. But I do, after everything that's gone on in Phase 4, have very low expectations. So hopefully that'll work out in my favor and I will be pleasantly surprised. But yeah, I'm just kind of keeping myself fresh and trying to avoid any kind of trailers or people talking about it or whatever. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm hoping that the payoff is there finally.
I will say this, my prediction about Rocket is not based on a comic book thing. It's just based on my theories and about the kind of stories James Gunn tells.
I'm not sure what Will's saying here. He's saying if Jesse didn't cry Guardians 2, he'd be pulling a Curtis. I will tell you that I bawl every time I watch Guardians 2. I'll let everybody know it. That Yondu funeral thing, just as soon as that music starts playing and the other folks show up and stuff, and yeah, I'm done. That's it for me.
You do have a soft spot.
Oh yeah. That's it for me, man. I was traveling for work one time and I'm in the hotel room and it's, you only get so many channels in the hotel room and stuff. And that was on like HBO or something. And I'm watching it and the kids called so that they could say goodnight before bed. And I'm just sitting there like weeping on the phone. And they're like, "What's wrong, Dad? Are you okay? Is it because you miss us so much?" Yeah, that's it.
Funny.
It's not because it's Yondu's funeral.
The thing that gets me is, how Rocket responds to it. But then when Kraglin just loses it when the fireworks start going off, because like he's such a goofy character,
right?
But just seeing him have that again, it's that raw emotional reaction that gets me.
Yeah.
There's
definitely a lot of emotion in it, and we started to have a couple weeks ago that we had the DC talk with Sean and Matthew. And I'm hoping that James Gunn brings some of that to the DC universe.
Oh man, let's hope
I think
so.
he will.
Yeah, I saw.
He's already done it with Peacemaker.
Yeah. I
freaking love.
There is a difference though between running one movie and the overall arching universe, putting that together. That's an undertaking. So I'm sure you guys probably saw his little game plan on the movies that are coming out and stuff. What were you guys' thoughts on that?
And I'm hopeful based on stuff he's done, but I mean it is a good point that knocking a movie out is one thing, but I don't know, time will tell, but I'm pretty hopeful that it's going to come around. because I got a big love for a lot of DC characters. So
yeah. Me too. I was a huge Superman fan growing up.
Yeah.
I love Booster Gold. When they announced that there's a Booster Gold series coming, I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm just hoping they do it right. And he said the right things. He talked about, it's all going to be about storytelling and, building on the characters and stuff. So it sounds good.
Yeah. Right. And to me, a lot of that stuff is like, that's price for admission. Of course, that's what you're going to say and what you want people to hear. Right. But
yeah,
like I said, I think knock on wood, they're going to pull through.
But, like we were just talking about Guardians 2, and it's like, one thing that you expect from James Gunn is that you're going to get a heartfelt story and you're going to get some great music. So hopefully, hopefully that's what we get.
Right on.
Jesse, I know we kind of talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but any other thoughts on DC now that James Gunn kind of laid out what movies we expect to see?
Now that they've mapped out the movies and shows, like yes, him taking over an entire universe is different than just knocking out a good movie and a decent series, as good as they were. But I think they're going to knock some stuff out of the park. I think they're going to have some other stuff that's not as good, just like everything. Some stuff I just won't be as invested in. I don't have a big appeal for Booster Gold, but it's something new and different to see. So I'm intrigued to see what they're going to do with that and how they make that work. I think is a little more philosophical. The whole way we consume and are introduced to movies and shows these days is so tragic that we have all this insight to all this stuff before anything even happens. That's why I was waiting for him to make an announcement, or DC to really get excited about anything. Because like the whole thing, like they didn't fire Cavill. They had not rehired him back into the role. So there's all this stuff. So all these people's emotions get fired up before anything official ever actually gets said.
Well, now they've brought a bunch of those actors back. They haven't said anything about Cavill yet, but they've brought back like Wonder Woman and Aquaman and, so who knows?
And it'll be interesting. I'll be excited when I see trailers with release dates on it that are within 3 months, maybe 6 months, just because, that Batgirl movie, I really like that actress. They cast as Batgirl from In the Heights. So I was really excited to see that movie, and it's done, and, we might never see it, but yeah, I'm intrigued to see what they do. It sounds like if DC and the higher ups actually let the creative people be in control of it, and they don't just treat it as IP, which I think is what they've been doing since Man of Steel.
I think the part that makes me the most nervous is they're trying to follow that MCU model and try to link this together in a universe. And, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but myself, like as we were going through phase 1 and phase 2 of MCU, I took it for granted. Like this is awesome. Like they should do a bunch of different properties like this, but it's not that easy. Like they did a fabulous job through the first 2-3 phases. And then all of a sudden we get to phase 4 and, MCU is kind of, there's some problems there. There's some chinks in the armor that weren't there for the first few phases. And you realize, connecting all this stuff in one universe, it's more than just having individually great movies. They also have to link together towards a larger story, and that's not as easy to do. So we'll see. I think that, so far, even in the, previous DC universe, there were some movies that were pretty good, but the overall universe didn't really link up real well. So I'm hoping that that's better as we move forward, but we'll see. So,
yeah,
good stuff. Somebody mentioned here that Jon Stewart, they announced there was a Green Lantern show coming. It's basically going to be like kind of like a buddy cop kind of thing, but they're, it's Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart kind of policing this quadrant of the universe.
See, I saw it listed more as a true detective. So
gotcha.
Maybe it'll be less playful, a little more serious. I don't know. It could go either way.
Yeah.
But I'll defer to Danny. He's the Green Lantern guy. that when I need Green Lantern info, I'll go to Danny.
I think either way, seeing the Green Lanterns kind of played out in not that Ryan Reynolds movie would be good.
Right.
Yeah.
So. Cool.
Um,
So kind of on a mythic note, I know we've got some shows coming up, Nate.
Yeah.
What do we expect to see? I'm obviously you're going to be at MesquiCon, right? Because that's pretty
Oh,
much
yeah.
like backyard for you.
Yeah,
Right.
2.5 hours away. That's where I was this weekend. It was in Muskegon. Yeah, I didn't see the crew, but yeah, I've got family there. So yeah,
What
absolutely
other
going
shows
there.
this year? Are you planning on PowerCon? Obviously, Legion's Con, right?
I really, really want to make it to PowerCon if I can. I haven't locked down the dates or hotel or anything yet, but if I can swing it, I would love to go to that. But other than that, I mean, if maybe some local smaller toy shows or something, like if Travis and the crew are setting up. But yeah, MesquiCon and Legion's Con, absolutely.
So Joseph here says you think about printing some of your work, maybe selling some of that stuff, and that's kind of where I was going to too.
Well, thanks.
You looking
Joseph
at doing
H.
any prints or selling anything at any of the cons this year?
I'm slightly considering it. I've had a few people ask as of late, and I'm super honored that anyone would be interested in me doing that. So I may look into it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Jesse.
yeah, I'll get something.
Thank you. Yeah, I may do it. I've talked to Trevor about like the printer and stuff he uses. So we'll see. I might.
Cool. There you go. Trevor says he's got a big table. So
Sorry, you hit it before I did.
yeah. So there you go.
Right on.
Well,
Thanks.
sounds like you might have some room for you.
We'll see.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Okay. Go ahead, Jesse.
I know you probably can't get into specifics. But I imagine someone like the Four Horsemen are easier to work with on like licensing and getting permission to use their stuff. Have you looked into any of that for like any Star Wars stuff or any of these other properties? Like, have you looked into any of that stuff, or do you just kind of do your thing since you're not selling them?
Yeah, that's something I don't even think about. Yeah, because I'm
Okay.
not selling it. So yeah, it hasn't even entered into my mind at all. So yeah.
Gotcha. Danny says he's in a calendar. Hey, I tell you what, if you want a nice calendar, Trevor's still got a handful left. Last count was 19.
Yep.
I'm not sure what he's got now.
Get that Etsy up.
Maybe he'll give us an update on the number, but I know he was still had a few of them on there. I've got mine sitting next to me right now, and
yeah, they are awesome.
Yeah. I'll tell you, this month it's got a dwarf beating up a bunch of goblins, and it's pretty awesome.
Can't go wrong there.
I would, yeah. I'd love to see some adventure people pictures.
I should. I think I'll probably do that. Yeah, I may do that.
That'd be cool. What else, Nate? You got anything else going on that you want to plug?
What else? Not really. Yeah, I mean, just hit up Corona 4 and let me know what you think. He's got 18 left. All right.
18 left from forever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I used to feel like, I had to post at a certain cadence, like every week or so many days a week or at certain times. And I've kind of moved on past that. And I don't, it's sort of getting to be stressful. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I'm supposed to be enjoying this. So I just shoot when I can and enjoy the process. And so when it comes out, it comes out. And, I don't sweat the likes and the follows and the numbers. And I mean, of course, I'm thrilled when I get them, but I'm really doing this because it's for me and I have a blast doing it, But I'm down here on my own with my headphones in, just jamming some tunes or a cool podcast or watching a show like yours while playing with toys. I mean, come on, it's hardly get any better than that.
Yeah, when we were in the studio today, we were just kind of chatting about like customizing and doing the things that we're doing and painting. And one of the things that I shared was, after Legion's Con, I kind of went through kind of this Legion's Con hangover, I guess it was, where I just took a break, and it started out as just like, oh, I'm not gonna because usually I paint mostly on the weekends, because during the week I'm pretty busy with work. But so I got to the first weekend after Legion's Con, I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna paint this weekend. I'm just gonna kind of relax and watch some TV and not do anything. And so a day turned into 2 days, turned into a week. The next weekend I didn't paint again, and
Now you're getting at the holidays.
then it got to the holidays, and then it turned into a month, and it turned into 2 months, and it got towards the end of December, and my wife and kids basically had to tell me that, like, hey, you're not fun to be around right now. Like, you need to get back to painting,
Yeah.
and I know for me it's a good stress relief. It kind of takes away some of the anxiety, and I get kind of into this happy place, kind of like you're talking about, where you get some music going, you're kind of in your own personal space. But it's not only important for me, it's important for my family and the people that I work with and things like that, that I'm able to make time for that stuff. So
Absolutely.
so that I have some sanity and I'm fun to be around.
Yeah.
But you're right though too. Like, you don't want to put pressure on yourself. It should be a fun thing. So
yeah. I think we all need that outlet, that something that's going to bring us joy and relaxation or some kind of fulfillment, because it definitely affects your well-being, in a lot of different ways. So
yeah,
that's funny that your wife and kids, you got to pick up a damn paintbrush.
yeah. Yeah, they're like, you gotta customize because you're kind of being a jerk right now.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
What it doesn't have to be a huge elaborate explanation, but for someone who's looking to get into like photography or something like that, what's a tip or something you can give, like, for someone starting out? Like,
Well, I mean, just like almost anything, you go to YouTube University, right? I mean, the thing is there's so many different kinds of photography, but a lot of the same principles apply. So if you just were looking up, product photography or portrait photography, just the way you set up lights, just kind of basic stuff like that, teaches you a ton. And then you can apply that, you're shrinking that down to your sort of your space, the scale that you're working in. I mean, because I think lighting is a huge part of what I try and really kind of focus on. And I think with toys, a lot of times too is, I mean, it's just a really basic thing, but get down low, get down on that level or even a little bit lower. When you're shooting at toys, they look like toys. So if your goal is to sort of make them look as lifelike or create a scene that looks kind of realistic, get that camera down low on level or even a little bit lower and shooting up kind of a little bit. Work on poses. Another thing is, like, if you've got even 2 figures in there and they're supposed to be fighting each other or looking at something, a lot of times I'll like get behind a figure and look as the eye line where they're supposed to be looking, stuff like that. You don't need expensive lights. You don't need an expensive camera. You can gradually kind of move up to that. But I mean, I started out with like what a lot of people do. I'm just getting desk lights and flashlights, and, instead of a diffuser, I'm like putting an old t-shirt over a light, kind of a thing. So, you don't need to go crazy at first, but I think the main thing is just if you could take your time and you experiment and have fun.
We got this.
I was hoping you were going to say that.
From Danny. Says, Nate, can you talk about the golden ratio? Once you get it, your photos get better. I have no idea what he's talking about. Does that make sense to you?
You know what? Off the top of my head, I forget exactly what the golden ratio is, but there's a ton of. I think there's even an app, and I have to look it up. But there's something that you can kind of lay over your photo, like a simple one. I don't know if it's the golden ratio, but it's sort of the rule of thirds. You can cut your frame up into 3, and you can. If instead of having your subject dead center, you might want to move it off to that sort of where that one of those third lines kind of dissects your frame, and that just can add a lot more interest. But there's like, there's like a spiral kind of a thing that you can lay over a photograph so your eye can follow that. There's a lot of different triangle shapes you can work into your photograph, and angles, and rule of thirds is more what you.
Yeah. Okay.
But I have heard that the golden one too before, but I can't think of what maybe that is off the top of my head. But yeah, there's a lot of tips and tricks for to kind of help you with composition. And again, it's just watching a video or studying. I mean, Trevor was a huge and still is a huge influence on me and has taught me a ton. A lot of people like he included will have like a behind the scenes story kind of a thing or video with their pictures, so you can really get to see where their lights are set up. Okay, is that see a lot of the spirals and stuff, so it kind of will direct where your eye, whether it's a curve like that or more angles, which kind of I think brings circle us right back to Frazetta. I think a lot of compositionally you can find some of this stuff in him and a lot of angular things too. It's not just sort of a dead on usually kind of a scene. There's some things that will lead your eye, angles and things and his compositions.
Cool. Yeah, actually the first time that I saw you, Nate, you were doing a show with Trevor. And it was you, Trevor, and one other photographer on there, and you guys were giving like tips on lighting and different photography stuff. I loved it. I thought it was awesome. It's been a little bit, but have you guys had any thoughts about doing another show like that? Just kind of, with other photographers and just talk through some of those things?
Well, I know we do want to have like an episode or two, kind of maybe spread them out, but just on Legion's Lounge, really kind of get into toy photography and, obviously probably specific with Legions. But that was a Trevor show, the Articulators. And I know he wants to, to bring more of those back. And I think so he picked sort of a topic, like ours was lighting. So that's really what we talked about. So we would each pick, I think we each picked one picture that we liked in the community, and we kind of talk about it and dissect it a little bit. Yeah, there's a great rule of thirds kind of an example.
That's cool.
But and then so he may pick a topic and then bring guests on to do that. So yeah, I hope he picks it back up too, because it's a great resource to have.
Yeah, I thought those were really interesting. Like, even if you don't pick up something and go out and use it, just to see like what's in your guys' thought process as you're, working through these. And then even when you're looking at somebody else's work, because one of the things that I really liked about those were, you're pulling out a picture from somebody else and you're, kind of dissecting what it means to you and how they put the shot together and the things that they did well. So I thought that was really cool. So.
Yeah, and Trevor's it's a lot of work, man. Like the shooting reviews he does, like putting those together and the editing process and stuff, that's a ton of work, but it's invaluable. Like for people like me, I learn something every time I watch that. So
yeah, definitely educational and also just interesting, just fun.
Yeah, super interesting. So yeah, I mean, when you can watch anybody at the top of their craft kind of lay out their process and their what they do to kind of reach that, it's brilliant.
Joe says he doesn't do the pictures justice, so yeah, we can relate. We can all relate. I know as just a customizer, just taking pictures of my customs to post it, so a lot of times I'll just look at it and go, man, that just really doesn't look great. Like it looks better in hand than it does in the picture. So feel the struggle for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I've got, if you could look back at my early Instagram pics, like, wow, so everyone's got to start somewhere. And I learn, with every shot, just different things to kind of experiment with. So
cool.
Well, I'm before we go, sorry, did I cut you off, Curtis?
No, absolutely. Okay. How about it, man?
We have crested the 2-hour mark, which is fine by me. But before we go, we have a question I'll pose to you guys, and it's not the one we have to necessarily answer right here and right now. We'll see how this goes over, if I can come up with more questions like this. But I did not come up with this.
We will answer it right here, right now.
I'll start with this one because this was the first one that was given to me. Do you think in the world currently there are more doors or windows?
Oh boy.
We should start calling this segment "How to Start a Fight at Your Thanksgiving Family Meal."
I'm gonna say doors, but I could very easily be wrong.
I don't have an answer for you. Like I tried looking this up, and I cannot. My coworkers and I that pitched this to me, we went round and round and round for like an hour.
I mean,
talking
my
about
first
this.
inclination is the opposite. My first thing is windows.
No,
that's my thought.
I mean, I know, like on the, if you like look at a house, right? You think, oh, there's a front door and a back door, and then there's a bunch of windows. But obviously, within the house, there's a lot of doors, right?
Mhm.
Every bedroom has a door,
right? Closet doors, all that stuff. But then I think of, like a high rise, and then I might initially kind of think the same thing. Like it's like windows, like for stories and stories, and all around the whole thing is window. But could be a lot of doors in there as well, right? And if if it's
bathrooms and closets and
So,
yeah.
But
and like
but I know a lot of
doors and car windows. What windows in a car are considered a window, and which ones are not?
Yeah, and there's some structures that don't have any windows. So it's a interesting thing to ponder.
Yeah.
There's some castles that don't have any windows that are just doors. All right. You got another one for us, Jesse, or is that it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I can throw another one out if you want.
Sure, go ahead.
Since none of us seem that invested in the argument on that one. And I'm not good at playing devil's advocate. So
I love playing devil's advocate.
Hey, I said that Frazetta was overhyped. So yeah.
The next one is a little more philosophical, I'd imagine.
Okay.
How many chuggas come before the choo-choo?
4.
2. Chugga chugga choo choo. Chugga chugga choo choo.
I think it's chugga 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 choo choo.
That's where I'm at. You got to build up that steam for the train.
Yeah, I'm at 4. I think 4.
Someone said 3, and my coworker that posed the question just about lost his mind at them.
Yeah,
so.
you can't. It's definitely 2. Not an odd number, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Chugga chugga choo choo. That's how I've always said it. I just got stronger chugga chuggas than you guys, I guess. My chugga kicks your chugga's ass.
I guess it depends on like what you're going for. If you're like, so we were on the chain, like chugga chugga choo choo, but if you're like telling us, it depends, I guess, on how Frazetta or MC Escher you're telling your story.
Yeah. I know for sure it's an even number. I think that 4 is the right answer, but I could see in a quick story where 2 might be the right answer. Or if you've got really strong chuggas like Nate.
It's weird. I don't like I like even numbers, but when like things are paired, like they need to be uneven. So even though I can't have the chugga chugga choo choos be uneven.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
I wouldn't have anticipated either one of those questions tonight, but I love it.
There you go.
But yeah, think about doors and windows, because like if you I looked up the definition of doors and windows, and the window was like something enclosed in a pane to allow like to look in or look out or whatever. And I looked up door is like a framed thing to allow ingress or egress from something.
He's got the strongest chuggas.
So it's like, well, does a trunk count as a door? Because it allows you ingress into the trunk of the car, but the hood doesn't, because you can get under the hood without opening, or like under the engine without opening the hood.
I don't know. I think you're putting way too much thought to it.
See, that's the thing. We just went round and round and round. Yeah. It's like, all right, if every apartment has,
damn it, if I can't sleep tonight, I'm blaming you, Jesse.
Cupboard doors, refrigerator doors, microwave doors.
Oh, yeah.
At what point do you call the line? Yeah. That's so it's like,
yeah.
All right, man.
At least I'm not asking you if you see the same color blue that I see.
Next time I sit down with Uwit and we have some of that special herb, maybe we'll get down to the bottom of this.
Let us know. Yeah.
Right.
And I want to hear this as the lobby conversation at Legion's Con.
There you go.
Very nice. Okay, one more thing, and then we can call it a night if you guys want. This Saturday, Cosmic, first chance that we have a chance to get a Cosmic. Now I know it's a test shot, it's different than a regular Cosmic, but it's the first chance any of us will be able to have to get one of these in our hands. Are you going for something? And if so, what are you going for?
I'm personally not a big test shot collector. I've got one and I'm happy with that. But I will definitely try and get one, if for nothing else, than to get it to Bill.
Yeah.
But if I did want one, I think I might want is Ziri, is that yeah.
Yep.
I think I might go for her.
I can see that. That's a cool one. Jesse?
I'm not a huge test shot guy.
If you were going to go for a test shot,
I am gonna try.
Okay.
I'm not gonna hold my breath for that 0.5 seconds it's gonna take to check out. But I'm gonna try for the Block Commander or the regular Sphexian.
Okay.
Just because I wouldn't paint it. I just want to have since I did not get in on any of the pre-orders, there's a part of me that is itching to just have one and see what they're like in hand. As like not the prototypes that they had at PowerCon and stuff. But yeah, they all look fantastic. It'd just be fun to see one in person on my shelf. Yeah.
So for me, when I'm ordering a wave, I usually do an all-in, and then I find like one character that I really hone in on and I order quite a few of,
Elijah.
So yeah, like Elijah. So with Cosmic, it was the Sentry, and I think that's probably what I'm going to try for on the test shot, is try to go for one of those Sentries. I just think it's just a very classic spacesuit look, and I think with the they've shown some of those pictures with the helmet cover that instead of being clear, it's gray. It creates a whole different look to it.
That is cool.
Yeah, so I think that's the one I'm going to try for. But there's really no bad choices. I mean, if you wanted to go for Slog, if you want to go for the Sphexians, I mean, these things are cool. And I think the fact that we're able to get these in hand, as a test shot before we've even had the regular ones, is going to be pretty neat. I think you're going to get to see some reviews on these, and people are going to be talking about it and showing pictures. And I think it's going to build up even more hype for when the real ones are coming.
Totally. Yeah. That's what I've been saying about the, like Bill and Jeremy having these. Like, if I wasn't excited before, like just seeing them play around with these is like definitely taking it up with several levels.
Yeah. And I'm excited for, as somebody that works with Wolf King, a lot of the things that, we would be planning on doing with these things, you kind of have to get them in hand to see, how certain parts fit. So like Jeremy was doing his show this past Wednesday and showing on the Sphexian, it's got a completely different neck that's like arched over in order for that head to work right. Well, if you don't have that in hand and you don't know that, it's hard to create a new head for that.
Sure.
If you don't know what that angle is going to look like. So getting some of these test shots in hand will allow some of the 3D part companies to kind of get a look at these things and go, okay, so this is how this works, and here's how these
get a head start on it.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna, it's gonna allow us to hit the ground running, so to speak, so that when people start getting their all-ins in, guess what? Here's some parts ready to go if you want to start customizing. So I think that'll be cool.
Yeah, I agree. It's so cool. 4 Horsemen can't top.
It's a no for me. And the reason it's a no for me, I'm going to be able to make it to 2 shows this year. It's going to be MesquiCon and then Legion's Con. And the reason why I chose those 2 is because there's enough space in between them, like not physically, but just time-wise across the calendar. You got one in March, the other one's in November. They're spaced pretty far apart. PowerCon, like if it's in the same time, I think it's the same time as it was last year. It kind of feels like PowerCon hits and then Legion's Con's right around the corner. And to me, that's too close together to be traveling as far as I would have to travel to get there. So that's me. What about you guys?
It's like a 4-month gap between PowerCon and Legion's Con.
Is it? I thought it was more like 3. Isn't it like late August?
It's late August.
Mid-August, and it's
Mid-August.
mid-November. So it's August,
like
September, October. Oh, 3 months. Sorry, I miscounted. I counted number of months, not. Yeah, I do that all the time.
Yeah.
I plan on being at PowerCon as long as everything goes according to plan. But I will be at ZoloCon on Saturday working with Len at the Wolf King table.
Awesome.
So I'll get to be there for that.
Very cool.
And I think at this point, for all of us, we would all be at Legion's Con unless something drastic happened in our lives, right? I mean, there's no way that we would intentionally miss a Legion's Con.
No.
I don't think.
Even if something drastic does happen, I'm going.
there you go.
I'm not missing it, man.
Yeah.
I hope I just didn't jinx myself. So yeah. Well, I'm looking
Nate
forward
shows
to
up in a body cast and somebody's wheeling him up.
I'll be there, man. But yeah, I can't wait to see you at MesquiCon, Curtis, and can't wait to hear the reports in from ZoloCon from you, Jesse.
I'm looking forward. Yeah, I'm sure I'll be talking about it that Sunday night with whoever our guest is. I know who it is, but try to keep a little suspense a week out.
Right on.
There you go. Cool. Well, good stuff. Anything else you guys want to cover before we call it a show?
I just want to say thanks, you guys, for having me on, man. It was a blast. I've really loved everything you've done with this channel, and up until today, having Curtis on has been a great addition. So
this was my last show, so appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, I like I said, I was looking forward to it ever since the invite, and it was a hoot. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, thanks
for bearing with me. You know, the views of Curtis do not necessarily represent the shooting the shelf show.
Right.
Go ahead, Jesse.
No, it's all good in the hood.
No, again, thanks for taking some time out to be with us. I think this is one of the second highest watched live shows we've done.
Wow.
We crested 30, and we're up in the mid to high 20s through most of the show. So
cool. Well, I hope everyone's hit that like button.
Well, thank you very much.
And we saw 0 butlers walk behind you the whole time.
I gave him the night off.
Okay.
Didn't want any interruptions, you know.
Casual Sunday.
Yep. Flipped him a couple hundies and just said, "Go have some fun tonight, guys."
That's cool. Very nice of you.
Yeah, you got to take care of him.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Nate. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Nate, we'll bounce you out real quick, do our wrap up, and if you need to take off, that's cool. But if you hang out for a second, we'll be back in just a moment.
Cool. See you, everybody.
All right. Yeah, make sure you check out Corona4 on Instagram and wherever you can find Nate.
Cool. Cheers.
And Legion's Lounge every other Monday.
Yes.
Yeah, right on.
All right, Chris, anything else you want to add before we wrap this up tonight?
No, I appreciate everybody sticking with me while I was kind of the villain for some of the Frazetta and Star Wars conversation, but we all have our likes and dislikes, and it was a good show, though. I really had a good time. So
me as well.
Cool stuff.
Yeah, I think you scared Anthony Halseal off. I think he ducked out.
Yeah, he'll probably be wrestling me at Legion's Con, so that's all right.
That'll be an extra ticket, I'm sure, for someone. Hey, everybody in the chat, I apologize if I missed calling you out, but thank you all for being here. It was so much fun to see all the chat activity. We get so wrapped up in the conversation, it's hard to keep up with all the comments, but we do see you, do appreciate you all. And
pull this one up real quick. I actually do not like macaroni art, but I appreciate it.
But yeah, that's it from us here. And on
somebody changed their name just for me. All right.
I wonder, is Frazetta rules the same as long shot rules or whatever?
I don't know. But good time.
Well, yes. Appreciate everybody. Hope you all have a great week. We'll see you next week on the shelf. And yeah, thanks for joining us. And as always, what's on your shelf?
See you guys.